But here's like an interesting, like when you start going down the road of like who are we to credit? Like, and I
Yeah.
don't just mean like for the actual drawing, but like, well, who inspired them? And oh, there was another thing. Eventually, you're like, well, God made frogs,
Yeah.
right? And it's like, you know where I'm going with this? Like. All right, cool. All right, y'all. Nick, Brandon, and Barrett here. Welcome to Amongst Friends. We are doing a live session today, just hanging out, talking, and yeah, how's it going, guys?
It's good.
Going
Yeah,
good.
It's early, but it's good.
it is still early. What time did you get up?
6:50.
Damn,
That's
both
what
of
I
you guys
set my
got up.
alarm for.
Yeah. Like 5:30 for me.
Jeez, bro.
Is that
I
your
like
alarm?
I turned tossed and turned for like 30 minutes before I just decided like, hey, this ain't gonna work.
I've got this new strategy of putting my phone in the bathroom and like making myself get out of bed and leave the room to go turn off the alarm, and that works pretty good.
Hmm.
Uh,
That's when I know it's over for me is if I roll over and like even just check the time or something. As soon as I see my phone screen, I'm up.
hmm Yeah, that's what I know it'll turn into. Is I'll look at my phone and then I'm captivated.
I'll probably crash at like I don't know 3 o'clock and take a 2 hour nap or stuff. I've gotten the bad habit of taking naps during the day. Now my body like expects it. Do y'all
I
ever do that?
Yeah, I try to do like a nap or something on the weekends, but then it also makes me feel like a pile of garbage.
Mm.
Yeah, I do feel horrible. I always feel
It's
horrible, but I feel like I can't stay awake any
like I
longer.
should be doing something. Like
I just yeah,
That's how my naps go. It makes me feel like shit.
you wake up like sweating and
I wake up.
disoriented.
I feel like I wasted my day, and then like I did not get the relief that I wanted from this nap. No, I just feel like I wasted time.
Yeah, but but I can't not take the nap. That's the problem. Like I'll just end up staying up till 12:30 because I got more energy, or think I do. But yeah. Well, anyway, I digress. So we're talking about artists today. Favorite artists is the topic. So I'll give a little bit of background on like what I was thinking. Just artists could be like any type of creator, like it could be a director, could be a band, could be a painter, could be a singer, a writer. So I thought it was like a cool conversation because it's not gonna have us stick to any one type of medium, and we all have kind of different interests and stuff. And then as I started thinking about it, I was like, gosh, there's actually a lot of artists that I know by name. Um, but yeah, I don't know where we really want to begin the conversation. But I guess for me, an artist is just somebody who does something creative,
hmm
and usually publishes their work, But there's probably people I know who are really good artists who don't put anything out there, you know. But yeah, what are your all's thoughts on like what? I guess we could start with just trying to think of like, is there a certain type of art that's most appealing to you? Like Barrett, like I know music speaks to you a lot, but
hmm
I think for me, a big thing is movies, video games, and writers. You know.
Another way that I went about like looking into this for today, because I don't know a lot of like whenever I think of artists, I did have to like think more broad than I normally do. And like I don't know. I don't know the names of the people that created my favorite things other than like music. Like you said, like I do like, and I count that as art too. And I do have like music artists on my list, but a lot of the art I are artists that I choose to go with are like people that created concept art for the
Mm,
stuff that I like, the
okay.
people that came up with the ideas and um I don't know, just kind of admiring like the wave that sent out in each of those mediums. Um, but yeah, I don't know. I learned a lot of cool stuff about uh, some of the things that I love and who they were created by, um, and how like some of their involvement is still present within those companies
Hmm.
and stuff too. So
So sounds like you thought a lot about like music, but also visual art. Is
Yeah,
that things
a
that
lot
came
of
to
visual
mind?
art
Yeah.
is what most of mine is. What I at least have made the most notes for.
Gotcha.
So
That's cool. Makes sense.
I think for me, like I had to like when the topic was first brought up, I had to think like literally back to the beginning just to see like what was the earliest like I felt like influenced by stuff. And I grew up going to a lot of car shows and
Mm.
stuff, so like there's like a lot of like I can't really remember the names. This is like one that didn't come up until like it just kind of like resurfaced not too long ago. But there's like a lot of like the Rat Fink kind of like rat rod type imagery
mhm.
that kind of like crosses over a little bit with some of like the skating,
Mm.
like the skating decals and stuff like that. But the one that came up was the guy named Chip Foose,
Hmm.
and he's like a car designer. He's like worked with like various like car manufacturers and stuff. But like what I was like drawn to was back in like the mid 2000s, he was on a reality show that was on like Discovery Channel or something like that called Overhauling,
Mm-hmm.
and it was essentially like Pimp My Ride for like muscle heads, essentially. So it's like they would somebody in the family would like call this show, and they would come like make this like elaborate like punked kind of situation where they steal a guy's car, and but like they would bring this artist in to kind of do different concept art for like how they'd paint it, like what wheels and stuff they'd put on it. So like a lot of my early influence would be just like concept art of drawing cars, and like yeah, that guy's like one I followed quite a bit when I was younger, um, and hopefully in post I can try to bring some of these images up
That'd
on
be cool.
screen so that it'll show up on the YouTube. But
Mhm.
that was one of the earlier ones in the sense of cars. The other one was more sports related.
Hmm.
It was a rider that it was probably one of the first like full books I ever read, like beginning to end. And his name was Mike Lupica, but he was a sports journalist. He's been on ESPN quite a bit and everything. But he wrote a book about like a little kid playing on a travel basketball team, and like that's what got me into reading more. It's just a topic I related to, something I'd also like a story I kind of identified with, but it was a way that like motivated me to read a little bit more.
That's cool. I think I think for me, like, so for when I think of art, I feel like I grew up in an artistic household, and I don't know if that's everybody's experience, but what we were lacking in like being engaged with sports and stuff like that, like everybody when I grew up, my mom was super artistic. Like she was always working on some craft or project, or she loved to dance, and just so she did choreography and was really involved with church and stuff like that, and was always thinking artistically and stuff, and really encouraged that. So I don't know, I don't I don't do a ton of different art myself, but like I really feel connected like when I see art or hear something. And like for me, good art is like something that gets a emotional reaction out of
Yeah.
me or makes me think, you know. But like I think I get what you're saying though. I think the thing with the cars and stuff is interesting, and it's because like that's not even something I would think about, but it makes you like
Mhm.
appreciate. It's like even any just truck you see down going down the road, like at some point someone illustrated.
Yeah, at one
Yeah.
point there that was a concept. That
Yeah.
was an idea on paper.
And like what got me with him, like the way he drew things, it was almost in like an almost like surreal sense. So you would take like certain features of a car and like maybe accentuate them more. So like take any car, you would draw it maybe sitting a little bit lower,
Mhm.
or rims a little bit bigger, or if it's a car that's got like an older, because it was a lot of like older cars that had like a lot of chrome bumpers and stuff like
Mhm.
that. So you'd like accentuated like a lot of those details to where like he kind of like created his own style through it.
Do you guys think of when you think of artists? And I was thinking to you, Barrett, when I asked this question too. Is do you think of individuals mainly, or do you guys think of companies or bands? People like basically groups of people who make up a um not a product, but like think of any band, right? It's five people. Is the band an artist as itself, or is it the individuals that make artists, right? And I think of like a quick example is like I think of all the video game developers, right? They're teams of anywhere from five to like 300 people, right? And so sometimes when I think about, hey, it's one of my favorite artists, I think, oh, that studio is the artist, and not always think about the individuals. But yeah, what do you guys think?
I mean, I just not being, I'm not a super artistic person, so I've never really known where the credit falls. So I would also say like I've always kind of just put it on like I think of it as the company or the studio that made it. It wasn't really until like really like doing a little bit of pre-research for this that I learned some of the names of people that created things that I've loved my whole life, where I tried to like at least find the name to give credit. And there was other things I wanted to look into to get names for my list, but like I'll throw out like the art of Bloodborne was done by more than five people.
Dude, yeah, which is crazy,
Which
right?
because there's like an environment, there's character design, there's like weapon design, there's all the different designers. So I was like, well, I'm not gonna like credit each of these individual because my list was just kind of becoming too long.
Kind
But
of like the credit that Kojima gets for
Yeah.
all his games.
yeah, and I also didn't want to do that where like I'm crediting the wrong person for something that I love about something. So
Yeah.
yeah, I think of it as like I'd pretty whole company, put that umbrella over it. And as far as the artist, whenever it comes to music, it's a little bit different depending on how engaged I am with like the band and how much involvement I know each band member has. So like I do have a couple musicians on my list that at least at one point have like composed the entire album, which that's my favorite kind of artist, is someone that their brain created all the instrument parts, and I think that's just something really special.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think like one example of like kind of what you're talking about being like giving credit where it's not fully due is like even something like Nightmare Before Christmas. Like
Dude.
I love Tim Burton.
Yeah.
Love all his stuff.
That's a great example.
But like his name got thrown on that because of name value. Where like he did write the story,
Sure.
but like he didn't direct the movie.
Yeah, it was like Henry Selick or
Yeah.
something. Did actually directed it.
Yeah, so it's almost like
It's his art
Mandela
and his songs,
effect
though,
kind
right?
of like thing.
He wrote the short poem,
Yeah.
the "This Is Halloween" song, right? I think
Yeah,
it
I
was.
think so.
And that and I like the general idea, and then someone else
John
produced
Williams
a
did
full.
the rest of the music. I
Yeah,
think.
and then
Dope.
somebody else turned it into a movie with a script with the visuals, like the character designs and all that.
But it was
stuff.
strictly we think this will sell more.
And it did.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and it worked out. Like it kind of proved them right to an extent, but we'll never know
Yeah.
in that sense. But yeah, I mean that's one example of it. But like I find it hard to kind of look at the whole group. I don't intentionally like look out for like single people, but it's just kind of like what Barrett mentioned as far as like when it comes to the band or something. It's harder for me to like understand what the process was or what was going on if there's more people.
Mhm.
Where it's like if there is a single person, I can relate to it a little bit more in the sense of, well, this is where this came from, or this is where this idea came from, or this is how he applied this idea. When it is like and there's nothing wrong with a group doing it, because I mean, obviously, everything we've like, even take the biggest artist, like they still had a team around them to build
Mm-hmm.
what they got, but it's just harder for me to, I guess, see a direct line of like what the creativity was when there's a group
Mm.
versus a single person.
Yeah, there's like some of the artists that I found last night when I was doing research that like I had heard their name before and thought that they were wholly responsible for a thing,
Mm-hmm.
and then you go into just a little bit more research on that and find out they had like a team of 3 or 4 people that are actually even more responsible for
Yeah.
some of the most important things in that.
Yeah.
So yeah, I don't know.
It's insightful, right? It's like,
It is, and it makes it, I don't know, like it makes me want to pay more attention to like who creates what in things. I don't know. I'm
I get what you're saying.
It's not my cup of tea to like really
Yeah.
go down that rabbit hole with like everything that I love as far as like
Well, and it really
all
doesn't
the artists
necessarily
do it, but
need to be.
yeah, and but it's inspired me to at least like pay a little bit more attention.
Yeah. Well, I like doing that because it helps you find more art, right, by this person or people that you really connect with that you didn't even know about. And it's more of the thing you love. Like I think you mentioned Bloodborne
Hmm.
maybe at the beginning of this or before we started. But like, yeah, that's like multiple artists. And like you can find them on Twitter and ArtStation and stuff and see like all their other art. And you're like, oh my God, this is totally like art from Bloodborne. But it's their original creations, and you're like, oh, that's really what I love. It's not just that it's Bloodborne or something. It's like I just love the type of way this guy designs this stuff. But at the same time, this is like too early in the conversation for this topic, but like separating art from the artist is also kind of a good thing because I've got some artists I love that have a lot of controversy to them, and I don't even know how to reconcile that in my mind. Like, should that matter to me? How much should it matter and stuff? So sometimes it's nice when you don't know anything about who made the thing, you
Yeah.
know?
Yeah.
Yeah, there's definitely part of that, because too, you never know when that controversy is going to come or what it's going to be about,
Yeah.
what kind of line it's going to draw, depending on what side of it you're on, and like I mean, just for instance, with Harry Potter, like I've got a Dark Mark tattoo, but there are a set of people that's just like see that as J.K. Rowling right now,
Mm-hmm.
and it doesn't matter what your opinion is on it or what your connection is to her or her writing. It's like there's always going to be that discourse.
Yeah, I same thing with like Neil Gaiman, like, and I'm still mad at you for even saying, "Did
Yeah.
you hear about the controversy with that?" Because I was like, "No, I didn't," and then I went and looked it up, and I was like, "Oh, great, great! I got like 30 books in here by
Oh.
Neil Gaiman." And
Yeah.
shut up. But
I know nothing.
that to keep it that way. But I guess where I'm going with it is, I do think this though, like Harry Potter's a great example. I think at a certain point when it's something like that, it becomes bigger than the artist. Like J.K. Rowling, yeah, hugely responsible for the creation of the universe and like the brand and the style and the spirit of it. But like now I'm like, hey, it's not synonymous with J.K. Rowling anymore because now we have games and expanded lore. The movies now are made by so many more artists who've put their brand on it and put their style on it stuff. So I'm like, yeah, I think in the same is true for like Star Wars. I think it's like even if you do or do not like George Lucas, which I don't think he has anything controversial in the way of J.K. Rowling, but it's like, while you can credit him for creating, and I do, by the way, I was one of the artists I was going to mention. Is like, just to go off on a little tangent real quick, is George Lucas. Like, I don't think dude can get like enough credit for what he started, and not that he created science fiction or fantasy, but like there just wasn't that type of movie out there was such a big universe and so many creative things. And he was like, "Yeah, I'm just gonna do this. We're gonna put a dude in a dog suit." And
Well, someone I have on my list. I kind of strayed away from like the big names.
Yeah.
And like Ralph McQuarrie. You know who that is?
I feel like I do, but tell me.
That's the guy that created all the concepts for all the character, or like all the original characters in Star Wars, all the environments, the ships, the droids, and based on conversation with him and George Lucas, like we like picked his brain, and this is what I came up with. And like, so whenever I made my list, I tried to make a list of people that created how I perceive a thing. So not necessarily like the J.K. Rowlings and the George Lucases, but like Mary Grand Prix did all the illustrations for the original Harry Potter books, for like the Scholastic
Like the
books.
covers?
The covers.
Oh man.
And and the chapter art, like every chapter had like a little picture at the top of it that kind of like just related to it or whatever. But like I tried to like do a little bit of like looking into like who created how I see that.
Yeah.
And so like Mary Grand Prix on my list for Harry Potter and the originals. Ralph McQuarrie, who like is like some of his concepts that were never used are still like are coming up in like newer Star Wars things. So like concepts that he had back in the 70s and 80s are coming up in like animated shows and like Ahsoka and like the newer stuff that's still coming out, because like I don't know, it's all in that same vein. But
Yeah.
Which I have a quote for him too, I guess now.
What is
I want to read it.
Yeah, I want
because
to hear this.
I just did my best to depict what I thought the film should look like. I really liked the idea. I didn't think the film would ever get made. My impression was it's too expensive. There wouldn't be enough of an audience. It's just too complicated, but George knew a lot of things that I didn't know. So like them working together and creating this idea, like George's brain with his art is just, I don't know, created a really awesome thing that's huge.
Endured.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's huge, and yeah, it has endured.
I'm not trying to be facetious with this. I'm genuinely curious, like, because I haven't really done much digging on it, but how much influence was Dune, like, with Frank Herbert?
I don't know enough about Dune to talk about that, but I know that I have always heard there, and there's a lot of repeating topics that are used from Dune, because I think Dune was written in the 60s, and it uses like spice, and Dune, the planet Dune, is very much like Tatooine, and it is very clearly like George almost definitely used ideas from that to create his own thing. The way that they keep, or was it, they recycle humidity, recycle like body fluids and stuff, and water, like any bodily water, they recycle it to, and that kind of relates to like with Tatooine, moisture farms. Like, it's just, I know that he definitely took the idea, but the story, I don't think the stories are the same. I don't.
Yeah, for sure.
I don't know. I'm not versed enough on Dune to talk about it. I'm this close though. I'm about to go hard on Dune.
Yeah.
I'm
In this conversation?
no, not because of this conversation.
Okay.
Just, no, in life,
Oh, you're
I've
about to
been
jump in. Okay.
podcast I listened to just covered Dune pretty thoroughly, and then it made me want to watch the movies, and then I want to read the book after I watch the movies, because that I know that reading Star Wars books, it was better to have an image in my head for what things look like, rather than to go into like I'm trying to read the Stormlight Archive and I have no idea what to visualize in my head for this, so it makes it harder for things to stick. So if I watch the Dune movies, which I've heard are very good, and a lot of the changes that they've made book to movie are acceptable for how it needs to be perceived, or like how Frank Herbert like had envisioned things, or I don't know. Apparently the director did a really good job at like the things that he tweaked, but yeah, I'm this close to going on a huge Dune deep dive. I'm just worried about what it's gonna make me think about Star Wars and all that
Well,
stuff.
I mean
Because I
that's
feel
kind
like
of
you think Star Wars is the best thing, and then you get into Dune and you're like, oh, this, this is much better. I don't know. That's the gist I get from people that like Star Wars first and then got into Dune.
yeah, and like that's like what brought up the thought for me is just being able to separate like inspiration from, I don't want to say theft, but like in that sense of like using someone else's ideas versus inspiration, because especially like creating art now, I'm sure it's always been a thing, but like there's so much out there now, it's hard not to like come up, it's hard to come up with something new or something that isn't influenced by something else. And like that, I mean, that was like some of the research I was doing. Go ahead.
So I was gonna
Yes,
say,
sir.
even if it is heavily influenced from Dune, I don't, like I said, I was just kind of gonna reiterate that I don't feel like they're enough of the same to feel like it's a ripoff or like a direct like re-representation of like how
Yeah.
I think it is. They do have very different themes.
I mean, I think there's a possibility that if you read it, you might like it better. But I also believe that to some degree, the proof's in the pudding in the sense of like, look at where Star Wars is now versus where Dune is now. Like, the cream's going to rise to the top in that sense. Like, there's a reason we have, you know, a million different shows, comics, properties versus what Dune had. Not, and that's not to like downplay what Dune is, but it's just obviously there was something in Star Wars that inspired people more to want to create more. Um, but no, like that was part of like the research I got into when like I hate to be cliche or to seem like I'm a casual at it because I watch more anime than just Dragon Ball. But
I know
like,
you do.
but like with Akira Toriyama, like his artwork is
Yeah.
anime to me, like in a lot of ways, and it's not just from Dragon Ball because it's in Dragon Quest and Chrono Trigger, and then
Sandland.
Sandland, and
Chrono Trigger is a game that
Oh.
I want to like a remaster or something so I can give that game a chance because I've heard nothing but good things about it too.
if it would get that 2D HD
Oh.
like remake,
It would be, dude. So I'm playing Dragon Quest right
Yeah.
now, and I'm like, oh, this would be awesome for Chrono Trigger. Like, perfect. Like, don't give me that big full Final Fantasy VII Rebirth remake for this. Give me just the HDNI's pixels and stuff, and some modern like updates to where you can save anywhere and stuff like
Yeah.
that.
Yeah.
But while on the topic of gosh, I just lost the thought. We were like talking about three things, and I was like, oh, I want to mention this. Oh, like Chrono Trigger, that was a great example for me of like learning about artists. Like one of the reasons that game was so big was, yes, the artist you mentioned, but then like the people who developed it, and I'm not going to try to remember their names or tell you what else they did, but I know like at Square Enix, it was like, but I'm going to make up some stuff, but if you research it, you'll see all these people who are super influential in the video game space, but it's like the composer of like the Final Fantasy games or something did the music, and then the director,
Nobuo Matsuno.
yeah, and then like the director of so many famous old RPGs was the director. It was like a dream team of artists. So like when I think of,
A super group of sorts.
yeah, supergroup. Yeah, that. They took the words out of my mouth. But I think it's really cool then to like figure out, okay, what are they doing now? Like that's another thing too. And what's amazing too is like as you research artists and stuff, you find out like they haven't gone on to do anything, some of them. And you're like, what the hell? Like, where are they? Have to be making something, right? And it's like, no, not all of them did. Or they did, and you're like, wait, they made that game? That game was awful, or that
Yeah.
movie was awful. But yeah.
yeah, his work on Dragon Ball is like what got me wanting to play Dragon Quest and Chrono Trigger, and then just
It did the opposite for me.
really.
I do not understand. Wait, go back up. Did y'all talked about this before?
I love Dragon Ball. I love Dragon Ball Z. I love Super. I love that so much. I feel like I was pushed away from Dragon Quest just because it was distracting that it was not Dragon Ball
Yeah.
and didn't pertain, and it was the same art. And I don't think I didn't look at it in the way of like, oh my god, the same guy that designed Dragon Ball designed this. That's awesome. I want to know everything about this. I was like, that ain't Dragon Ball Z. Fuck that shit.
Well, like,
That was my super dumb just opinion of that growing up. So I skipped over a lot of that stuff.
Yeah,
Like
that sucks.
but now I'm at the point where like Chrono Trigger's actually come up multiple times in the last few years to me where I'm like, that one I want to know about because I've heard nothing but praise about it. Like
It's
but
it's
the
incredible.
Dragon Quest
Yeah.
games I thought were like at a glance just kind of goofy looking, and I don't know, I didn't have the room in me for it, I guess.
Yeah.
But yeah, I just never gave it a fair chance.
I've always wanted to go back and play those, but because of how old they are, it can be hard to do that. Not only from availability, but just from like a technical aspect. It's not, the original may not be as enjoyable now just because you don't have that frame of reference of playing it when it was new. But with that 2D HD remaster is like really like what kicked that back up for me.
Mm-hmm.
And but it was just there are a lot of similarities. Like it's hard to ignore. So like a lot of the newer Dragon Quest games, like Hero from that, literally looks
Trunks.
like I think he looks more like 17, but with purple hair.
Yeah.
So it's like a mixture of him and Trunks.
See, it's like I don't even know who that is, but I knew who you're about to
Yeah.
talk about. Definitely looks like
And
it's distracting.
but
Sure, they're great.
Not in
though.
a good way.
Not to me.
Not even now.
it probably wouldn't be so bad if it wasn't for like Trunks being such a cool character.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like it's almost like
How dare
there's
you
like a
stand where he stood?
there's like a reputation to live up to, or like an expectation to meet.
Mm-hmm.
But it's just weird how things that I wouldn't have even thought were related or inspired by what Toriyama did, but like his first property, like his first manga, I think was like Dr. Slump, and there was a character, this little girl called Raleigh, that was in it, and just her alone as inspiration for like two different things that are like vastly more popular than what she ever was, at least in the West, where like her like animation of running was the inspiration behind like Mario and the Tanuki suit. And then
It's crazy.
there's a scene, I think it might have been in the anime of Dragon Ball, where like she's like I said, she's a character from a different property, but it was like a crossover that she showed up in the show. And there's like a scene of her, like I think like giving like a peace sign or something, but she's in like a round yellow circle behind her with a red ribbon, and it's like pretty much the basis for what Sonic was, like the Sonic logo from like the second game,
Oh, that's cool.
It's interesting.
and like to jump like to Sonic from that, where it's like there's like speculation that like the Chaos Emeralds from Sonic were based on the Dragon Balls. Like there's like speculation
Checks
just
out.
because of like when it happened, where like Super Sonic and going Super Saiyan, like we don't know really
That's a good,
don't really know
I didn't
like which
think of
one
that.
came first. The character Silver in Sonic was
I
based
think-
on Trunks.
Really? Is it that close together where we don't
Yeah.
know what was first?
Yeah, it's like 91 or 92, something like that.
Yeah. That's crazy.
So
Because
That's interesting.
I'm going to say Sonic took a note from somebody else's book. Got to. Bro.
it's hard. It's hard to say.
Hard. Yeah, I believe
But I
it.
don't honestly.
That's-
I don't care.
that's
either
my
way.
head
I like
canon.
both of them. So.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, yeah, I like them both too. I thought it was awesome, even when I thought that like Sonic was directly.
Like you haven't seen the Sonic movies, have you? The live action ones.
No, but I know it's the
Like that
Sonic
was one of the
Gold.
best parts of the second
when you
movie.
go super.
But
What happens?
I can't tell you the whole plot.
I guess I'll just look it up. I was in that
Spoilers.
scene. Just cool action at that point.
Yeah,
Okay.
there's a cool action sequence.
Super Saiyan, man. Like, that's awesome.
Well, I mean, I don't know what that really means. Like, what
Yeah,
is,
you haven't watched Dragon
what
Ball.
is Super Saiyan? I mean,
It means
I think,
somebody's about to get their ass kicked.
yeah,
That's
3
what it
episodes.
means, dude.
Yeah, I mean, 7 movies later, it's
Yeah,
just
well,
it's their
this is
monologues.
this is a movie. He's not. We're not. We don't have to do all the filler.
Okay, so he goes really fast.
That's kind of his shtick, isn't it?
Yeah, you gotta go fast.
But no, I mean, even to the point, like inspiration wise, where a lot of the original Pokemon designs were possibly
Mhm.
stolen.
Oh, did you have Pokemon on there?
I have the original artist
Yeah,
for.
Ken Sugimori.
Well,
Like-
this is where I learned that actually, yeah, Ken Sugimori was
Huh.
is still with Game Freak, does all that, is responsible for creating the Litwick family, which is
Yeah.
dope. So he had a lot
Oh,
more.
he did Litwick.
He did a lot of like Black and White was like majority. He did a lot of it,
Mhm.
but like there's someone named Atsuko Nishida.
Mm-hmm.
It's a female. She created Pikachu, Bulbasaur, Squirtle, Charmander, a bunch of the Eevee evolutions. So like Pokemon that are more recognizable
Yeah.
are not Ken Sugimori, which I'd like thought I'd always heard that name, but also there's Shigeki Morimoto who created the battle system for Red and Blue. So the way that we know how to battle in Pokemon.
Yeah.
Also created Mew and still works for Game Freak to this day and has
Yeah.
like worked on every mainline game. Which
Su-
is
Sugimori's like worked on all of them. He's been more of like a supervisor
Mhm.
since like probably if not Black and White. Black and White, it was X and Y, one of the two.
yeah. I was like,
Yeah.
well, when I think of him, like I know he's responsible for a lot within Game Freak. I just like thought as far as like I have the starters in Sugimori as close to Sugimori style like on my arm, and knowing like finding out that it's not Sugimori and it's Atsuko Nishida that actually would have designed those.
Yeah.
It's like,
Well, yeah,
just learned
design wise, like the specific thing about Sugimori that I wanted to point out though was like the artwork from like a lot of the promotional material from like
red and blue.
red, blue, and yellow
Mhm.
was just like the watercolor like
Love
aspect of everything. Like
Mhm.
that's like some of my favorite.
Yeah, same.
Um,
That's at the top of my list.
That's cool. Hey, I gotta give you a shout out for pronouncing these Japanese names. Like
no
bravo to
hesitation
you,
either.
dude. He didn't stutter. He didn't. Yeah, nothing. I'm like, oh my god, that you got them all down. That's awesome, dude. But yeah, like I think something I thought of as you guys were talking about this, like when you go to try to figure out who those artists are, I think something like ask the question of like, do you need to think of the individuals, or is it okay to think like in your mind, is it okay to think of it as a company or something? I think neither is right or wrong, but something that does really frustrate me is if I can't find out who the artist is. Like they hide that information. That bugs me on so many levels. Like one is because that person, like, well, it's more selfish than that for me. I just want to see more work by them. So I get annoyed if I can't figure out like, hey, who designed like this version of Mario for this game, right? Like, because it looks different and it's more animated or something, and you can't figure out who the heck that was. And but then it's like that part of me that's like, that person deserves credit, right? And to be recognized for that, because like when you have a creator like Hideo Kojima, for example, right? And you could argue all day, like, well, what is he actually creating? Is he just kind of spitting out ideas? Is he like Steve Jobs of video games? And I think he probably does more than that. But it's like you don't get a clear idea of it. But like the concept art for the Metal Gear games and Death Stranding is fantastic. And I can't remember. I did a really bad job of like looking
Yeah.
up any names for these guys. But that's a huge part of like the identity, which I think is what you were getting at earlier with like Star Wars is, yeah, Star Wars is awesome, but a huge part of that is the visual identity of it, because a lot of it is visual. Like it's not necessarily about the dialogue. I mean, yeah, there's themes, but at the end of the day, it's like, okay, the fact that there's a planet with multiple moons and lightsabers and different species and stuff like that, and that all comes visually from a visual artist and stuff. So anyway, point is, when you can't figure out who that is, or they don't get recognized in some capacity, drives me nuts.
See, one example I have of that, and you know, it's one I brought up last week with in regards to like what I wanted like the Zelda movie to be.
Yeah.
It's like with all the Studio Ghibli, like even though like Miyazaki's name is on that, I don't know exactly how much of that
Mm-hmm.
is him versus the rest of the team
That's a great.
because he doesn't draw every panel.
No.
So yeah, that's one of those two where like that's the only name that's been really like associated with it. And if you do, I maybe need to do a little more research, but like it's just everything I do, it just comes up Studio Ghibli. That's it.
Mhm. Yeah.
And
Last night I went on like this Google spree, like looking like who the artist for like specific things were.
Is that why you're on the toilet? You did that.
Just after the toilet.
Oh, really?
Yeah, yeah. This is
I
actually
appreciate your
making
commitment.
it back to the bed.
Gotcha. Limpy.
he had to let something out before he could bring new information.
Oh, gotcha. It's a
Mhm.
process.
Yeah, there was no taking anything else in. It had to be flushed first.
Gotcha.
But like just looking like I was like, who? So like Dave Filoni and Jon Favreau get all this credit for Baby Yoda, but I was like, I know someone. I remember the concept art for Baby Yoda, Grogu,
Mm.
and I was like, who designed that?
Mm.
Like that guy. That guy we should all know his name.
They see
You know what I mean?
that. Yeah.
So his name is Christian Alsman. Never heard of that guy.
Maybe he doesn't want to be heard.
Either way, he's
Who cares what he wants? We need him.
yeah. That guy created
Christian Halsman.
yes, Christian Halsman. He's a concept design supervisor at ILM.
Oh, Industrial Light Magic.
Mhm.
I love him.
But he's the one that designed the original concept for Grogu, based on Dave Filoni. So Dave Filoni did kind of like have the idea. He just brought it to life.
But even then, like how far you trace that back? Well, it's like who designed Yoda for this other person to be like, what if we had a baby form of that?
His
Yeah.
name is
Well, then it's not. What? Here's
Ralph
the,
McQuarrie. Designed it.
yeah. Here's
And
the.
Frank Oz brought him to life.
See,
Right?
this is a thank God.
and
for Grogu.
and who else? There's someone else there. The guy, is it Frank Oz? That's all the
Oh, this guy's artist.
Dark Crystal, and there's
Well-
another name, Tim Henson,
Yeah,
Jim Henson.
Jim Henson. You got it.
Yeah.
But here's like an interesting, like when you start going down the road of like who are we to credit, like, and I don't just mean like for the actual drawing, but like, well, who inspired them? And oh, there was another thing. Eventually, you're like, well, God made frogs,
Yeah.
right? And it's like, you know where I'm going with this, like so when you're like looking at Baby Grogu, and you're like,
Yeah.
well. It's kind of like, well, he didn't make Yoda. It's like, well, who made Yoda? And it's like, oh, well, they didn't make the color green, or they didn't make elves. And then you're like, well, who made elves? And you're like, and then eventually you get back and you're like, oh, it's just a fucking frog. They're adorable, dude. Like it's
Yeah.
just a frog and a person like mixed together, and you're like, oh, that's really not that crazy.
Why is that so fucking cute?
It's so true though, dude. It's like, oh, okay, Chewbacca, what a cool design. You know, it's like it's a dog with a human body, more or less. And it's like, oh, who do we credit for that? And it's like, it's really
He's just Sasquatch.
well, but I think that yes, essentially. But I
So
think
it's
when you
it's
think
dog
about
squatch, bro.
creativity, though, right? That's where I'm going with this. Is like you think about creativity, it's really you're just putting things together,
Yeah.
right? Like, you know, to be blown away by a character like Chewbacca is like, oh, well, it's really just 2-3 different things, right? It's like the relationship and loyalty you have with like a dog mixed with like a best friend, partner,
Yeah.
soldier, and he's strong and like, you know, stuff like that. And you're like, oh, so that's like, so I guess what I'm trying to say is like, that's the creative process. And I think that's what's cool is like, so when you look at all this stuff like Star Wars and you try and figure out, well, did they take Dune and stuff like that? Pretty much everything we have is like just grabbing this and this. And some of it feels more original, but like Stranger Things is one I thought of. The creators are blatantly open of like Silent Hill, Goonies, like straight up Dungeons and Dragons, all the Steven Spielberg movies, and they're like, absolutely,
Yeah.
we copied
They
from all of
own
it.
all of
Yeah.
the things that inspired it.
But it's still creative. It's still incredibly creative and stuff. And it's like there's been times where I've like you mentioned this, like at what point is it like a blatant ripoff,
Yeah.
and what point is it an inspired creation? And I don't even know necessarily where that line lies. I feel like it comes down to the motivation of the person who made it, right?
Yeah.
You're just trying to make money off of like a Sonic the Hedgehog clone, and get some of that money.
So Power World. I'm just kidding.
Well,
I'm just
Power,
kidding.
no, that's a great example though.
Yeah.
Power World does annoy me a little,
Yeah.
more than a little. Where I'm like, you couldn't have just made 150 of your own creatures. Like you had to basically go, hey, we're gonna start with all these models, and then we'll modify. That's what I feel like That's what I see. I'm not saying they did that. That's
The
what
problem
I
I
see.
have with Power World is just like how clashing the art design is,
Mhm.
where it's like you have these creatures that look like Pokemon, but then you have guns that look like real life guns. So like there's like clashing like art design.
Oh, for sure. But I think that but then I look at that and I also appreciate it. I go like, well, that I gotta hand it to them. They took these really just kind of like really stock ideas that they didn't make guns and they didn't make Pokemon and they didn't make crafting game, and they were like, hey, but we're gonna run with it and own it. And did they make something fun that's of some type of quality? And I don't know. I haven't played it, but
You like survival games where you have to eat every fucking 10 minutes and
no, I barely
everything
like
break.
having to do that in
No,
real life.
it's not.
Yeah.
That's my problem with it. Pikachu could be the mascot of it too, with
But-
like 3 ears or something. And
But you see my point. You could argue.
you
could
make
argue
it look
that
just like it. It's
you
not.
could say
fun.
it's the most creatively like bland thing ever, right?
Mm.
But where do you where do you draw that line? I don't know. It doesn't really matter. It's just
Yeah.
sometimes that can make me not appreciate art. And I think that kind of
Mhm.
goes back to the point you guys are making about like Dragon Quest. It's like even though it's the same artist, it can just kind of look like it's like, well, you just took your style from this and kind of transpose. And I don't think that's necessarily what you're saying, but like just at first glance, you can just kind of be like, oh, this is someone just put Dragon Ball Z characters into a fantasy game, and
Well, what I would equate it to is kind of like what we were talking about before stream with Troy Baker. It's like he's a good voice actor, but like you can only hear that voice so many times before it's like it kind of breaks the immersion. And art can do the same thing
yeah.
when it's
Oh, that's
spread
a good
across
point.
multiple properties like that, where it's like, yeah, but this looks like a character from this other thing I watched.
No, I see your point. I thought about that too as I jump into figuring out who these artists are. And then I start seeing some of the stuff. I'm like, oh, they've done this design like 7 or 8 times, And I know that shouldn't probably bother me, but at a certain point, you do realize, like, I don't know, too much of a good thing you can kind of get burnt out on.
Yeah, see, like that's my issue with like seeing, like someone trying to they're putting out a new movie of something that's like needed a adaptation or something for a long time, and instead of putting more unrecognizable faces in roles of characters to give a new persona, they put, Timothy Chalamet's in it again, or Tom Holland.
Dude,
You
yes.
know, like there's all these like
Oh, that's a
it
great
gets
point.
really hard to separate that or immerse yourself in that whenever. That was my issue. That was probably why I avoided doing it first, because I was like, why do they put so many people in this? Like, why does this need such a huge cast? Those movies have a huge cast of just like Game of Thrones people, Marvel people, these people, like just all these, whenever they could probably use that budget, get actors that are less known, that are just as good, and do even more with it. And I don't know. That's
And that's like a
Yeah, that's a
that's
good
like a very fine line too between determining like people want to see this versus we're doing this because it's going to make money.
yeah.
And
Yeah.
like even like with the example I used last week with Green Arrow, it's like how many times can Sean Bean be cast in a role
Yeah.
like that?
Yeah.
And-
Apparently, very many times.
You're playing the same character. I mean, the inevitable answer that is
But there's a part
Johnny
of that.
Depp.
But there's a
plays
part of that
himself.
where like there's a part of it where like he's the best actor for it, or like at least when the person created something, he might have been the person in mind, or this person's so popular that we want to see him do more stuff.
Mhm.
And it's kind of hard to determine where that line is of like, okay, now you just put Jack Black in Minecraft because he's going to make money.
Yeah.
I'll always love him, but Jesus Christ, dude.
Well, is it his fault though? Like that's the thing I think about too. Is like, you
No,
know, they
can't
could have
blame him.
put anyone in the Minecraft movie though, right? Like that's my
Yeah.
opinion.
I think it would have been hilarious if it was Steve from Blue's Clues.
That
You know what I
that'd
mean?
been good.
I would have
That,
felt
like,
weird
what-
about that.
But
yeah,
I mean,
sure.
I don't. Yeah, just
I think Tom Cruise would have been great. Tom Cruise, and then
I don't. I'm kind of torn. I didn't play a lot of Minecraft, but I'm kind of torn on that anyways because back to the similar to my discussion with Borderlands, it's like the art style of Minecraft is a lot of the selling point. And if you like, even if the rest of the world was all squares, they still just drop regular people in it, and I don't know. I don't know what the story is, or so I don't know what they're going for.
this company
but
that
it's
did
just-
the Mario
it's just
I
movie.
think
weird.
it's about
Do you like
Minecraft.
the
But no,
I mean, if they did like the Mario movie or
Lego movie.
the Lego movies and did that graphics and did the square thing and made a fun little narrative for it and did that.
They could even use the Minecraft like art style
yeah. I
in
mean,
a sense. Like you
clearly
take
no one has a
something
problem
like-
with that.
You take something like the Spider-Verse movies, for instance. Like there's a lot of like directly off the page comic book stuff in there.
Yes. And, and that's a great example of great art to me.
Or like the recent like Ninja Turtles movie, like a lot of that art design was meant to look like scribbles on paper, like
Yeah.
almost like graffiti art to a degree. And it's like there's ways you can incorporate that art style, like without totally going off the deep end. And
that's a great example, like the Minecraft movie, just talking about art in general. Because like on paper, like they showed like one shot and it was like a wolf in the Minecraft world howling and the moon was moving, but it was like a square. It was like a great, like beautiful shot. Like the lighting was cool and you could tell that some animator put a ton of work into that. It's like, so I can look at that on one hand and be like, that is objectively good, like quality, detailed animation. But then on the other hand, it's like we're saying that looks worse than the game, right? And the game is just awful bland textures and a bunch of squares. So it's like that's an interesting thing about art to me is that, you know, you can feel that way even though, you know, if you just numbers to numbers, right? They just don't matter, right? But then also it's like, well, you do appreciate that like there is a style to it and these artists put a lot of intention into it. And it's hard because you want to appreciate it for that, but then you see it and you're right, like Jack Black shows up or something and you're just like, what is this about now? You know, is this about Minecraft or is it just about like getting people in the theater? And it's probably more of the latter, which makes it really hard to appreciate art. Any good art that was in there, it makes it really hard. You know, I think dream like it's our dream that we get like that big movie, and it's artistically fulfilling, but it's hard to get that.
Mm-hmm.
But those are the best things, like Harry Potter. I think they nailed it, right? Like they brought it, they changed things they had to change, but like straight up, you're like, oh, they adapted this more or less perfectly.
I mean, they created a theme for like John Williams' theme for Harry Potter, like is the sound of Harry Potter, and those books had no music. prior
That's
to that.
incredible, right?
Isn't that awesome? Like, same with like, I mean, if you think about like, or like Lord of the Rings, like
Yeah,
the music to that is so much of it.
mm-hmm.
And before that there were just books
Yeah,
that had no music, it had no sound.
And I think both of those adaptations too are like perfect examples of like good casting too, in the sense that they do have some popular faces in them.
But not to kids.
But
And not
yeah.
like the kids of our generation. Like I didn't know who was the guy that played Snape was in a lot of things.
Well, that's what I was going to say. Was like they got popular faces,
Yeah.
but like it's so much like a part of like the full picture that like you didn't really single them out. Like even having Gary Oldman,
Yeah,
Yeah.
Gary Oldman.
like you don't like
Yeah.
it's
You
like
forget
out of
it's
sight,
Gary
out of
Oldman.
mind kind of thing, where it's like you don't know it's him until like you read the credits.
Mm-hmm.
See that's an awesome thing though about like I've read a lot or I've read a lot about like character actors versus you know superstars, right?
Yeah.
Like you got, and I think sometimes they're both, and I think that's what's awesome. Is the cool thing about Harry Potter is it's got all these actors who all have a way about them, but they went in there and played characters. They didn't try to necessarily be themselves. Maybe with the exception of Professor Snape, right? But
Pretty book accurate though, in my opinion.
no, it's book accurate. What I'm saying is like he talks and acts in that way.
What
in
is
other-
his? Why am I not thinking of his name?
I'm totally.
Alan Rickman,
Yeah, he
Alan
passed
Rickman.
away.
Yeah, he
recently.
did.
about 10
Like
years
10
ago.
years ago. But
God, we're getting
God,
old.
I know, dude.
But even down to like nearly headless Nick being John Cleese, I think, right?
I believe maybe.
But
Yes,
Back
sure.
to like Monty Python and stuff. So it's like, so I will say there is a somewhat of a caveat there where like it
Mhm.
being a like British creation in a sense, there are a lot of like popular names, I guess,
Yeah,
across the pond there, but like there wasn't like a lot of like there were only like a handful of like well-known faces to the Western audience at the time.
that's a good point too. Well, I think ultimately everyone fit the role either because they were an unknown and they just had the talent, or because
Yeah.
they were a well-known actor. But it's like, oh, you know who would fit that perfectly? You know, so and so, this actor, that actor. But it's hard
Yeah.
to do that.
Just like typecasting everybody.
Yeah.
Yeah, I wish that we go back to maybe. Are we spending too much money whenever there's casting calls? Like, what's going on?
Right. Yeah.
You know, like I feel like
Do people even care that much anymore if you recognize an actor?
like what do you mean?
Like, okay, so like
On the street or in a movie?
No, I'm in a movie. Like, there's only 3 actors I can think of where it's like, oh, they're in it. I think I'd like to see that. You know, one of those people used to be Tom Hanks or something.
Yeah.
Right? But like, within 10 seconds of a movie trailer, I don't care how well I know that actor. I'm gonna make a decision about if it looks like there are someone I want to watch on screen or not. So it's like I don't need 20 years of going, oh, I've seen all their movies and I know they're a good actor. I mean, that can help, but more and more it's like, is the story good? Is the movie going to be good? Because how many actors that we do like have been in like awful movies, right? And so anyway, I guess my point is we don't need all these recognizable faces and names in movies or in any type of music, anything. It doesn't have to be that way to make it successful.
When Star Wars: The Force Awakens came out, like I didn't recognize anybody on that. Like any of the new characters that they put into play, like they've been in things, but they weren't. It's not like they, made, insert famous actor here as the new Jedi. They found someone that isn't instantly recognizable, and I don't know. I just think there's something to that. It's like, I don't know.
Endearing.
You can tell whenever someone's just put in something to pull numbers,
Yeah.
and when someone's put into something because they've made a specific casting decision on like this person.
On that note, can we take 5 minutes? I gotta pee.
Yeah,
Yeah, go ahead.
Sorry.
yeah, take pause.
Cool.
That's pretty dope. Yeah.
Are we live?
Yeah.
Oh, my bad. Well, we're back, y'all.
Yeah, I got you picking your nose and everything.
Oh, really?
Not just kidding.
I was like, I picked my nose.
I didn't look at the picture you sent. Did you send? Can I share it with the class? What the fuck?
That's not. What the fuck? I was waiting for you. I was
Fried rice, bro.
That didn't come out of me. I got that from Reddit.
Fried rice, bro.
Dude,
That's
I did the heat level 3
insane.
on
Yeah.
some fried rice last night, though, and it was hot. I felt
Heat
fine.
level 3 from where?
Hibachi Express.
Oh, okay.
Have y'all been there?
Yeah.
That's great. I think it's really good.
Yeah, it's really good.
I don't ever go for like heat or anything there though.
I'm not there, but when I go to like the Thai places, if I go for I like Thai heat.
Do we have any good Thai places around here?
There's a place over on the south side of town, kind of behind the Zaxby's in that little strip by Walmart.
I know what
It's
you're talking about.
called-
Yeah.
I can't remember what it's called, but it's on the very end of the strip, and they are very good. They serve your like if you get the chicken and fried rice cliche thing, it's served on like a leaf with limes, and you can get it like 1 through 5.
Like a
heat.
leaf. Like how big of a leaf we talking?
Yeah.
We talking about like
In the to-go box, it's like a leaf like this long.
talking about Land Before Time, like one of those
Yeah,
kind of leaves.
dude.
Yes. Yeah,
Like,
yeah, it looks so
Oh,
good. You want to.
I've never been hungrier.
Dude, I was just about to
It
say,
looks so
when
good.
Spike
Than
eats
seeing one
those
that's in-
leaves- Oh my god.
Hey, we could have an entire episode talking about like
Pizza.
the water
in
from
animation.
Space Jam. Remember the drinks they were drinking from Space Jam, the magic
Yeah.
juice that they were all
No.
drinking. They
It's
passed
been
it around.
It's been
like,
a while since I've seen that. Oh,
just like things like that.
Yeah, yeah.
The
yeah,
bottle, yeah.
That's some good subliminal
Dude.
messaging.
The pizza in All Dogs Go to Heaven.
Oh,
Oh
yeah.
my
The
god!
the
just
leaf and Land Before
drink
Time
it
and the
in a
pizza and
milkshake,
All
yeah.
Dogs Go to Heaven.
Shoot, dude.
And
They-
the
they
Cheese
won.
Whiz from Goofy Movie.
Goofy
Dude,
movie.
I think Goofy
Leaning
movie.
Tower of
Leaning
Cheese.
Tower of Cheese. Yeah, that made an entire generation of kids want to smoke weed. Yeah.
Pauly Shore.
Yeah. Dude, this movie's to me, is probably one of my top 100 favorite movies.
The second one is one of mine.
See, I can understand that.
Extremely goofy movie.
I
but
love the road trip though. Like that movie made me fall in love with the idea of a road trip.
Mm.
And the story's so good too. That Powerline song. Oh, one of y'all shared that on
The Kingdom Hearts thing?
Yeah,
Yeah.
dude, I thought
Yeah.
masterpiece. Yeah.
yeah, that was really cool.
But yeah.
Yeah,
But anyway,
so art.
Yeah, art and stuff. Yeah.
Art and stuff. So I wanted to kind of like segue from something y'all were talking about like earlier, but I can't really remember exactly what it was. But talking about like recognizable art, separating the art from the artists and how that can be difficult, but like sound design.
Ooh.
That's something that I feel
a
like
big one.
is like I don't know. It gets into a whole other creative lane.
Talk to me about sound design.
So I wrote down like specifically the guy that did a lot of the sound from Star Wars. He
Yeah.
created the sound of the lightsaber. Ben Burt just created a lot of iconic
What an
sounds.
accomplishment, dude.
I know, dude. The star screaming TIE fighters to
It sounds exactly like you imagined it would without ever having imagined.
I've never
Yeah.
heard this before, but that is exactly what that sounds like.
Yeah.
Like just
Yeah, you're like, okay, yeah, that's what that would. They just, how do you even do that? Like, that's a gift, but it's like, how do you even describe what kind of gift that is? Knowing what things would sound like if they were real that aren't. It's like,
also like how he put it together is the sounds that he used to combine to create that. Because
What's
like,
that?
have you seen someone when they're doing like recording for sound for like a movie or doing sound effects on things like
the Foley art where they're like breaking celery in half.
yeah, and
Yeah,
using
yeah.
like spaghetti
yeah.
noodles on a
Yeah.
that kind of stuff. Ben Burt he combines the sound of a 35 millimeter projector idling interlock motors with interference from a 1970s tube TV on a shieldless microphone.
Like,
Like, how do you even come up with that? Like, what?
he
what-
had to have heard it to some degree before and thought, I can distort this or something. Like, I'm just trying to imagine. But yeah, how would you?
That is art though. That is like
Dude, that's a great call out.
it's
Yeah.
just creating one of the most iconic sounds that I don't know. It's unforgettable. It's nothing that's ever existed, but it's always been right.
Yeah, it's funny how that. It's funny how that works because then you have other people come along and try to recreate it, and it's like there's nothing in reality that actually that this came from in the sense of like there's no real lightsaber, but I can tell when it's not a lightsaber.
Dude. Yeah. No, I love that kind of stuff. Yeah, art, sound design is something like I think I've told you guys this, but for whatever reason I don't consider myself like someone who's like really into music. Like I don't know how to play any music, maybe that's why. But like when I play a game or something and you got like headphones on or even a movie and the sound design is just top notch, you know, whether it's like the way the footsteps change between different surfaces or just like the crispness and weirdness of the sounds and stuff like that. Like I think I probably love that sometimes more than the music or voice acting. Like just that ambiance, like Control I think about a lot. That's when you talk about sound design as an art, because there's never silence in the game, which is really cool. There's always this distorted, like muffled, almost like just the sound of like being in an office building or something, which sounds stupid, but it's so cool that they thought of that. And it's like they could have just made it silent until the action starts, but like you're just hearing like sound of like a phone ringing down 20 halls, right? And it's just echoing throughout the building and stuff. So I think that stuff's really, really neat.
Yeah.
Even down to like ambiance, like with like Ghost of Tsushima, like
Mm.
there's so many places in that where I'll just like go,
Yeah.
like if I know I've got to like walk away and go to the restroom or like go to the kitchen for something, I'll just go to a place and stand
Mm-hmm.
and just let the game play, because it's like with all the wind and the
Yeah.
leaves blowing, like the waterfalls and everything, it sounds so good that like you could literally just, you could pretty much go to any like landscape in that game and just leave it there and it would be good as just like a screensaver or something.
That's what's cool. I don't know if you messed with this part of the photo mode in that game, but you can turn the animation on.
Yeah.
So you can record a video. It's like freezing the animation except for the trees.
Have you turned like the wind speed all the way up?
Yeah,
To where like the trees are just like flat.
yeah, and you can play the music in the background.
Yeah.
So you can make like a 30-second animated wallpaper basically. It's really
Yeah.
what are you laughing about?
I was thinking of like all the trees being like
But somebody had to
That-
think to do
funny,
that, like
stupid.
like from the design of like the physics and everything.
Yeah. And that it works. It doesn't look just like the game's breaking because of it. It
Yeah.
looks like a real
It
world.
sounds like it's breaking whenever you describe all the trees laying
Dude,
sideways.
sometimes those bamboo.
I'm
trees
exaggerating a bit, but it does blow
It's
quite a
got
bit.
blasted. Dude, like I was gonna say, so you mentioned that when doing that Ghost of Tsushima. I used to do that with Mario Sunshine and Zelda Wind Waker. I would just go up to the beach when like there was no music playing, and then just like let the tide come. Kingdom Hearts. I also did that. Like I would just stare off into the horizon of the beach in those games, and it just always captivated me. Like seeing the clouds on the horizon and hearing the ocean.
Yeah.
Like that's just such a cool.
I think even to with like Animal Crossing
Oh,
Mhm.
was great for that, and that came at a good time too. Just like with the pandemic and everything like kicked off, and that game released right then. It was like it was like soothing to be able to play something like that when just the world around you's in like total chaos.
I mean, that's my comfort food right now. Is
Yeah.
Animal Crossing. Me and my wife have been playing it very often, and getting back into it from like the pandemic where I dropped off and started a new island. But yeah, there's something just like so soothing just running
it's
around that.
pleasant.
The footsteps,
No stress.
like just you can hear it. You can hear all the different. But like running around the beach, running around, just hearing the little, like all the different little, everything about that is comforting. The doorbell when you go in places,
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah, you're right. It's like they have like scientists on staff to be like, all right, here's how you make the most relaxing,
Like,
comforting.
How many doorbells did they like test out before they chose the one that's for Nook's Cranny?
Yeah, that game is like the smell of baked cookies in video game
Yeah,
or something
it
like
is.
that.
Yes.
The colors too are all pastels.
Mhm.
Like, see, that's a cool thing. Like, I don't know color theory and stuff, but sometimes I'll see something like Lilo and Stitch or something where they use like watercolors, and you're like, this looks different. Why is that? And then I'll go read about like what, and then watching like I love watching like the making of documentaries for movies, and they're like, yeah, we went this direction. We wanted it to have this feel and this vibe, and you're like, oh, there's a whole psychology to art too, like the sounds, the colors, the lighting and stuff is all meant to elicit a certain emotion and stuff. And I think that's just so cool. Like it just fascinates me. But that's also like to me, that's why video games, yeah, they're stimulating and that helps me a lot. But it's just that I'm getting like such a distilled beam of like art coming at me just constantly from the sound, the music, the voice acting. Like, and I know I've talked about this a lot, but it's just like it's like art as a drug almost. Like honestly, for me, it just sucks me in, and I'm getting to see all these types of art at the same time. Which I guess you could say for even a band or a movie. You know, there's different types of arts that you're experiencing right then and there. But I don't know, video games for some reason just wrap it all up.
And sometimes that's like the interesting thing is just how it's all brought together. I mean, we talked earlier about, inspiration and stuff, and like it, and there's also like the concept of like something being satire too, in order to bring stuff together. So like even though there's that inspiration, like that's how we got something like Ninja Turtles, where this is like satire of Daredevil. Like they're called like the enemies are called the Foot Clan, whereas in Daredevil they're called the Hand. And so it's like very tongue in cheek. But then it's like you wrap other things into it. It's like, well, we're set in New York City, so like let's use the hip hop culture around that time in order to just like create an entire like vibe and feel of everything.
Yeah. I think something I did want to talk about with art is like just inspiration. Like, what kind of art do you feel most inspired by? And if you have specific examples, that's cool. Specific songs or stories or stuff, or if it's just a certain format.
Music.
Yeah, yeah.
Music is the most. If I was to say inspiring, it'd be music. I can appreciate good art. I mean, I appreciate like I don't know, good visuals and stuff. But when it comes down to like music, and by music I don't mean like soundtrack type music. I mean like the music that I listen to every day is what kind of inspires me.
Like lyrical songs.
Lyrical, yeah, or just good composition of like I listen to a lot of metal music, so good breakdowns and good, the in between. That would be what I would say inspires me more. As far as like doing something.
I'd say it'd have to be music for me as well. Like I think music's what gets me most like in a creative mood, in the sense of like I'm working on an intro for the show and pulling different influences like of music. I think that's like where, just like from a creative standpoint, like what I've always done is like I'll hear, it could be lyrical, could just be orchestral, whatever, but I'll hear music and it's like there's like a director or producer part of my brain where it's like this would go good in this movie or like for this scene. It's like so then it's like I want to get all these, like whether it be a Metallica or Breaking Benjamin or whoever. I'm like this song would go well with this genre of movie or whatever. So it's like that's where I kind of get creative in the sense of like, well, I think I could overlay this or add this to a scene and it would be great.
Yeah, that's what got me into editing when I was doing that for a couple of months and just put out like 10 videos, but just, oh, this song would go so good with this, and getting to cut things against music. I would agree with, I think that the most, or not necessarily, I'm sorry, not agree, but I feel the same way. Like, I think the most inspired I've ever felt is probably from music, but on a general basis, I think most of the time it's actually visuals. I mean, it depends on what's happening at the time. Like, I don't know if I've ever been more inspired, like, than looking at like a sunset, like in the fall when the air hits you, like that, and like a good song or something captures that. But the other thing too is like really good words, which I don't know a better way to say it, but like, yeah, music's great, but like, man, when they have like fantastic lyrics and stuff, or even just quotes in a movie that just encapsulates it, like that really makes me want to not just feel good. It makes me feel good and it gives me hope, but it also makes me want to go make things, and do something artistic.
Yeah.
I always use music to like motivate me while I was skating and stuff. So like kind of takes me back to that as far as like, I don't know, when it comes to inspiration. Now I've not, I don't know, now it's like my inspiration to be in a good mood for my day. Like setting up my day for work, I'll be blasting something with the windows down while it's been feeling really nice outside. Like, but yeah, I don't know. I'm not, visual art isn't as much inspiring to me as just much as I appreciate it. And it's like comforting whenever I find something I really enjoy, I guess.
Yeah. It's weird because I can't draw, in my opinion, but yeah, something about visuals really captures me. Like there's like people ask the question, would you rather be deaf or if you had to lose one sense, what would it be? And I'm like, it'd be hearing. Well, I actually the right answer is it'd be smell. But you know, but a lot of times, yeah, Odin asked me that, and I was like, if it was hearing or eyesight, I mean, obviously functionally you'd probably want eyesight, but I would rather be able to see things than hear them. I think.
Yeah.
So you're saying if you had to pick two, if you had to pick between those two,
If you had,
or
if you
any
had to
of them?
pick between hearing and
Or-
seeing, what would you lose? What would you keep? You know,
Yeah, I would lose hearing, I guess.
it's so sad though, isn't it?
I don't know. It's tough.
I don't want to be blind.
Yeah, that's the thing.
I mean, that's like a definite.
Let's just say you got to lose one sense for art. You know, it only activates when you try and enjoy some art. You know which one?
I pick one.
Yeah,
Hearing.
you'd lose that.
Just art.
You keep it. Basically, you get movies or you get
So I go blind as someone's like, "Hey, look at this picture,"
Yes.
and then everything goes black.
exactly. That's exactly what I was imagining.
Honestly, I'd take the blindness.
Yeah,
If
I
it
think
kept
that's-
people from being like, "Hey, watch this, bro." Like,
that's a good
you
point.
know?
I can hear it. I can't.
That'd be like
watch
a
it.
superpower. I mean,
Dude,
Yeah.
I wish I could go blind when people try to
It's
show
like
me
your
stuff.
eyes just go solid black.
Yeah, you're just all of a sudden just
Yeah.
scared.
Turn out the lights.
Don't show me the art right now. Yeah, that's funny. No, I would pick. I mean, I would love to be able to turn off my ears though. Sometimes
to
I
be able to,
fantasize
like,
about being
if you
deaf.
had like the ability to, yeah,
Yeah.
it'd be nice to turn it off.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, just that sounds so relaxing. Because I don't know about y'all, but I wake up if like a cricket chirps outside.
No,
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 jealous of you.
no. I have the most chaotic alarm that makes sure I get up in the morning.
What is it?
It's a song called Alpha Omega by Architects, and it just starts with
heavy.
this like flatline beep, just a dee, and it gets louder and louder and louder until it drops into like the most ridiculous breakdown.
That sounds horrible.
That's almost like a challenge though.
It
to,
is.
like get it to turn it off before the breakdown happens.
You figured it out.
Mm.
That is
See,
exactly
I have,
why
like,
it's
really
there.
relaxing music.
Yeah, and then I get in the car and it's the first thing that plays on because it's my Spotify. It'll just pull up the song, and when I get in the car, it's the first thing that plays. And like Kanan, my wife has PTSD from it. She
Yeah.
hates it.
You gotta be careful
But
with stuff like that.
I still love the song. I'll
Yeah.
go through it 2 or 3 times sitting in the car from it playing, from it being my alarm,
Like
and I'll just like I'll
For-
be
for-
rocking out to it. And I'm like, yeah, I wake up to this
Dude,
every
right.
fucking day.
Dude, yeah.
Hell yeah, dude.
for a period of time, I used like strictly like the Imperial March and the Team Rocket, like the 8-bit theme.
Mm.
Team Rocket thing. Oh wait, no, you're talking about
Like,
the game. I was
yeah,
thinking of
like-
the song from the animated series.
No, it
You
was like
remember
the
that?
8-bit
Yeah.
one.
Yeah, you do.
And
Last offer to speed.
Yeah.
but it's like they're already like meant to impose a feeling of like dread or something.
Mm.
So it's like it's almost like a bad way to start your day.
Yeah.
And I didn't realize that for
Yeah.
a while.
I wake up on one of my favorite breakdowns in the history of metal. It's just
See-
like it's always been one of my favorite kickoffs to a song, and it just happened to make the perfect alarm too. And I don't have any less appreciation for it.
See, I recently learned that whatever song I'm gonna put for my alarm, I'm
You're-
gonna build contempt for.
Mhm.
Yeah.
So it better not be a song I like, because
My-
I've ruined
dude.
several songs where I'm like, nope, can't even start to hear this right now.
I
It
have
woke me up too many times.
PTSD from my childhood from the Small Soldiers soundtrack. So I feel you on that.
Wait, what? Who was on?
It's,
Was like an original
War was
score?
the first song. Yes,
Okay.
War
By
was the
who?
first song.
Okay, sorry. I just assume you know every band.
it good?
Oh,
for?
that song.
Absolutely nothing. Yeah,
Oh.
that fucking song, dude.
Well,
I,
that's
what my parents
been
would.
murdered by.
I don't know why we had that soundtrack, but I had a stereo system in my room. My parents would come in the morning to wake me up because they got tired of coming in and be like, "Hey Barrett, get up! It's time to go to school. Hey Barrett, get up! It's time to go to school." So my stepdad would put a CD in my CD player and turn that shit all the way up, and yeah, so
That's funny. We gotta get that Alarmo.
I do.
Can we like Dirty Santa Alarmo for each other? Just kidding. I feel like it's
I want one, and I honestly like had it pulled up in the cart and was like, I don't need a $100 alarm.
That speaker though, that's you talk about art. That speaker is a piece of art. They put that thing through some German lab in Nazi Germany to make that horrible distorted speaker, dude. It's just engineered. It sounds like it's from Silent Hill, basically.
The speaker on the Alarma?
Dude, have you that commercial?
That's the Splatoon
No,
shots
try-
is what I think of.
Try
whenever
to
I hear
watch the commercial again and think about the sound quality.
It's pretty garbage.
It's awful, dude. It's like
It's like
a Tamagotchi
Yeah.
is playing the music or something.
I did want to bring up
Mhm.
as far as like music and stuff, and like orchestral compositions. I know, everyone knows John Williams
Yeah.
for Star
I was
Wars,
gonna bring up John Williams as well. Yeah.
but they're lesser known, but I think more, to me, just more relatable on like how much in the medium I like. Star Wars animation. All of the animation or all of the music for Star Wars animation is done by Kevin Kiner. He also did the music for the Ahsoka series, which makes sense. But yeah, he's responsible for Clone Wars, Rebels, The Bad Batch, and like all the music for those and all the themes that like taking John Williams themes that he's used, but also like kind of redoing them in a way for animation to like certain themes come up in certain moments. So it's like this thing will happen and so's theme kind of comes up in that moment. And I don't know, I love the way that he has done all the animated shows compositions. I thought he was a good call out at least. I'm not super knowledgeable on him. I know his name. I know he's done all the music for the animated shows. But
Yeah.
felt worth mentioning.
Yeah. There's just like when it comes like just thinking about artists like originally with this, I thought of I think Robert Deakins is a cinematographer. Like he did like most recently did like the Blade Runner 2049 movie, and he did that movie 1917 and stuff.
Yeah.
And just like visually amazing stuff where it's just like you feel like you're watching a painting and stuff like that. So I really like cinematography. Steven Spielberg, I considered an artist. I don't really know what he's doing these days, right? Too much, but that was like my childhood, and like my love for movies came from Jurassic Park and Indiana Jones, E.T.
Also, Ralph McQuarrie was concept art for E.T.
Ralph McQuarrie was for E.T.
Like what he did the Star Wars concept art, he also did E.T.'s.
He looks like a Star Wars character.
He is. He's in Phantom Menace. The Asmogian, I think, is
Yeah.
what E.T.'s race is. Everyone so the new Skeleton Crew comes out next month, and that's because in E.T. this is supposed to be a what do you call it? Amblin style film but show, and very based off like E.T., Goonies, stuff like that. And in E.T., remember whenever he on Halloween he sees Yoda and he like acts like he kind of recognizes him. Later on, the Asmogians are all in the whatever the conference hall. I can't remember what the name is for where the Emperor announces his reign. The big room with all the I can't remember what it's called.
It's all good.
I should know. But there's a spot where all the aliens are from E.T. are in that shot in episode 1, so it'd be dope if they were in Skeleton Crew as well. Like somehow we've got Asmogians and
So E.T.'s canon to Star Wars.
yes.
Hasn't
It's
always
an
been?
Easter egg, but yes.
What's well, Brandon, I just kind of have some loose topics left
Yeah.
for this, but do you have like certain things that you noted, or I see your paper over there, so I just wanted to make sure.
There were a few that I wanted to throw out for like comics, for instance.
Oh yeah.
When I think of like I guess what I identify most with comics is like the like the Todd McFarlane like
Mhm.
era of Spider-Man.
Mm-hmm.
like being like he brought Venom to life. Like the Spawn series itself has its whole thing, but that's what I think of when I think of like modern comic books. But back before that, I would go with like Jim Lee for like what he did for the X-Men,
Mm-hmm.
because like that whole like yellow and blue like suit and everything, like between like the design for the X-Men and like the animated show, like that was like prototypical like 90s for me.
Yeah.
um I know you had some stuff comic wise.
Yeah. Like I said, I did a bad job of like remembering or writing down a lot of names. One I mentioned before we started was Ben Templesmith, though,
Yeah.
which is like a really unique art style. He's done comics. He wrote 30 Days a Night, but he wrote this other series called Wormwood Gentleman Corpse and Welcome to Oxford and Groom Lake. I've got like almost every one of his published graphic novel compilations and stuff, but it's like a really sketchy, kind of dirty, almost bad art, you could say, objectively.
Yeah.
Like he doesn't have like like a ton of dimension and stuff, but I've learned to love his art and like the colors and stuff, and the fact that it is so different. But I love the art of like the Sandman comics. Well, oh, here's one. Do you guys did you guys ever have any fascination with the Dinotopia books? Are you familiar with Dinotopia? It's not sort of homeschooler thing, but basically it's this island of dinosaurs and people that live in harmony. But I've got the books,
I
but
think I've seen a little bit of it, but I always like mentally I always get it mixed up with like the I always get it mixed up with like the I can't remember what the name of it, but it's like the Animorphs or whatever.
Animorphs, dude.
I don't know why that just came to mind, but like that's like
Oh,
The
this
chat.
does look
The
familiar.
chat isn't going to see this. Maybe we can get some screenshots. But basically, like I love this sort of my fascination with like visual art. These are basically like Leonardo da Vinci quality
Yeah.
paintings of this whole world. Like look at this. This is also why I love Horizon Forbidden West so much. I feel like they took Dinotopia, they put robots in it.
I used to have that when
Dude,
I was a kid.
this
I don't
blew
know
me
where it's at
away.
now.
I think I've read this probably 7 or 8 times. But that's some art that what's this guy's name? James Gurney. He started the series. Now there's like 30, 40, maybe more books in the series now. They're not all illustrated, but the covers are. But
Yeah.
they're written by all these different writers. But they're actually really good books, especially for like kids and young adults.
Yeah, that's
But
awesome.
that's some of my favorite. Brandon, just being on the topic of artists and stuff, or visual artists. But yeah.
I meant to bring up Tetsuya Nomura earlier, but his concepts for the original Final Fantasy, like 2D art, is some of my
Like
favorites
the-
too. Kind of like
Along the same lines of like the Sugimori, like water,
yes,
like water-based stuff, like the character portraits and the original Final Fantasy VII are some of my favorite.
yeah, that's kind of what I'm referring to as far as like the character portraits like that, because I don't know, that's how I see it. Like, those extra pointy like 2D
Yes.
like side shots of each character
He
and
did
stuff.
Kingdom Hearts
Yeah.
concept art. Yeah.
Yes, like the home screen with the Sora and the Palpu fruit and the little flute thing, like those little like just almost minimalist-y kind of drawing versions of them.
This I'm glad you guys mentioned this. This is one of my favorite artists that you just reminded me of is Yoshitaka Amano.
The original Final Fantasy
Well,
artist.
he does those
Yeah.
calligraphy looking
Mhm.
arts for like all the Final Fantasies.
It was like the first few, right?
Dude, yeah, well he still does the like the logo,
Mhm.
you know what I mean?
Yeah,
that,
yeah.
That really his art is some of my favorite. Like if I
Mhm.
could have some paintings or something up in here, it would be it'd be some of that.
Mhm.
What's some art that like you don't favor? Or is there anything that you think of? Not to be negative or anything, but just that you find art that maybe you don't connect with. I think for me a lot of that's music.
Mhm.
It's I mean, which makes sense. There's so much of it you're gonna find some you don't connect with. But sometimes when things feel overproduced, right? Where it just feels like they're just trying to like you go into writing a song or making a song with the intent to have a hook,
Mm-hmm.
right? Which is literally that sound that's to me, this is my interpretation, the sound that's designed to get you humming it.
So like 90% of like top 40 pop music.
Yeah, and it's not to say that like Ed Sheeran, like I
Yeah.
love Ed Sheeran, like he's top 40, right? But
Yeah.
like to me, like his music is art. Like his
Mhm.
lyrics are incredible. His beats, yeah, he still puts beats in there that are try to be catchy and stuff. But like that wouldn't bother me at all. But there's a lot of music where I feel like, okay, for like I have a hard time when the singer is. I guess I shouldn't have a problem with this when they're just the voice. They had no part in the creation of the song,
Yeah.
but I don't. Maybe that shouldn't bother me because some people just want to sing, right? But it's like I
So,
struggle with that.
so I kind of associate what you're talking with
Yeah,
like 2010 like pop radio with like Katy Perry and Kesha and stuff like that. Mainly because like I'm like
your favorites. I mean, these are all your favorites.
I mean,
Name my top
mainly-
three.
mainly just because like I was working fast food at the time and like in the kitchen like we had like people would have a radio on and it'd be stuff like that that's
Yeah.
playing and I'm like
Mind numbing.
yeah, where it's like I don't want to speak for them but it's just in a sense of like you sound good so like we're gonna write whatever
Yeah.
for you to sing. It doesn't matter what the substance of it
Sure.
is.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, exactly. And I think that's true for like I feel that way about a lot of sci-fi and stuff too. Like stuff like going back to Star Wars, so inspired, right?
Mhm.
And original, even though it's been around for so long now that it's like, it feels so familiar, like it's always been there. But man, like a new science fiction movie comes out, and it's like, oh look, a super dense city with flying cars in it,
Yeah.
and like it's
So
fundamentally good, right? Like okay, if I drew that, you'd be like, oh my God, Nick, like you're a great artist, like you can't believe you put that image together. But I see it, and I just don't feel anything. It's like
'Cause it's been done in a great way. It's many times, and I don't know. I'm like that with a lot
Yeah.
of science fiction too. It's like I don't have room for this one.
yeah,
I'm guessing you
the
watched
laws
Rebel
and-
Moon.
It's different here.
dude.
I don't know if
that is, dude. I was imagining that and not realizing it. Yes,
Yeah.
Rebel Moon was exactly what I'm talking about.
I hate to be negative, but that's kind of what I feel about Zack Snyder's stuff, like altogether. Like the whole push behind his cut of like the
Justice League.
Like it was better, but like not as good as like, hey, we need to get a campaign behind this, so they release it. Like it wasn't that good.
I don't like when the image is so clean too. That's something I realized. Like
Yeah,
like CGI, you can control that completely, right? But like sometimes which is weird because I have like OCD, but sometimes it's too perfect, right? It's too sterile. Like, you want to see, like, I really like watching older animation. You can see the brush strokes if you watch Lion King, like on a 4K TV. You can actually see the pencil lines moving where, it's
Yeah.
not perfect. And I love that. Like, I think that's so cool. And that's
I
another
like that
reason.
too.
I think that's a reason we like Spider-Verse, where they're like, no, let's intentionally put some sketches in there. It's like it doesn't have to look finished to be done. You know what I mean?
there's even instances in like Dragon Ball Super where like they do a flashback. And they could have totally redrawn the whole scene with like the new animation, but they put like a filter over it that
Mhm.
makes it look older, and I just like it better.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I think we've kind of talked about this off stream, but like that's where like I start to get a little creative too, where it's like I've kind of noticed that like tonal shift in movies, like, and some of it may be nostalgia, but like just like some of the movies I grew up on and how like not only just like the visual effects of stuff, but like the actual film quality, whether it looking older or just resolution of the TVs and stuff. But there are so many like newer like blockbuster type movies where it's everything's too clean and like that kind of gets my creative juices flowing a little bit where it's like, okay, I'm gonna take one of these movies, say like a Captain America, like the first Avenger, and just go back and put like film grain over everything and just kind of like reprocess stuff.
Put the whole part of the movie that's like in the
Or-
past in black and white.
Yeah, just stuff like that. Like I want to like experiment with that
Yeah.
when I get the time and just see like what I can create or what I can add to it.
Sometimes I hate it when they do almost every modern video game that wants to look as photoreal as possible, put that damn film grain filter on. And it drives me nuts sometimes because it's like way too much. It actually
Yeah.
reduces the resolution of the game, which is sometimes is fine. Like Last of Us, like I think that game looks great with film grain. Like it's supposed to look like it was kind of has an aged look to it. But other games, I'm like, no, get that
See,
crap out of
I
here.
have a habit of like
This
It's
is
one of-
2024. It should not look like this.
Like, come on. Like, why did I buy a 4K TV? You know what I mean?
that's something I'm guilty of myself with like playing stuff on PC. I can add reshade to it, and like usually like film grain's like the one thing I go to, just because it's typically on an older game
Mhm.
where it's like you're just kind of using it. I don't use it on anything new. I usually use it on like older games or like something like a Bethesda game that the textures themselves aren't high resolution,
Mhm.
so it kind of hides some of the inadequacies of like those textures.
Yeah, it's funny you say that. I was thinking about, I was watching some of those videos where they play PlayStation 2 and stuff or GameCube on like a CRT TV.
Yeah.
And they're like, oh, it's great, it's better. And I was like, how could that possibly be better than hooking a GameCube up to like this TV or a really good TV? And what I found out was like the refresh rate on the older TVs was lower. So there would be natural motion blur when you're playing these games that were like, because like, what is it? Ocarina of Time ran at like 20 frames a second. And I'm
Yeah,
like, you put that on like a big, yeah, that's like nuts to me. Now it's like people are like, oh, it's not 120 frames, so I'm gonna throw up. It's like, but anyway, the point is that it does literally look better in motion on an older TV, and I hope eventually they put like where you can reduce the refresh rate on your TV down to that, so it looks like it did when
You
it came out,
you can
because it
kind
was
of-
better.
you can kind of already do some of that stuff. Like there's like some like NVIDIA stuff you can get to kind of just add those filters to things. But yeah, I mean that's kind of where like I'm coming from with the reshade stuff. It's like
Mhm.
I mainly use it on older games because like you take a PS1 era game, like back then it looked great. Now like it's ugly as can be in some instances, and like some of that stuff just kind of like hides it or kind of blends it better
Mhm.
so that you don't see all the rough edges, like the physical rough edges, and then also just like metaphorically, like you kind of see like some of the either corners were cut or that's just what technology was able to do at the time. So like it kind of masks some of that away.
Yeah.
The question was, what types of like art do we not really connect with?
Yeah.
And it's- For me, I think it's certain types of music. Certain types of music I just can't get behind in no way, shape, or form. I'm fine, I can appreciate that other people appreciate things,
Mhm.
but I just like certain genres of music. I can't even make myself like it unless it's done by someone that doesn't normally do it in a song for a second or something.
Give me an example.
Like country music.
That's,
I
that's
can't
what I struggle with. Too.
I can't really take it seriously, but
Can you
right,
appreciate it though?
I can appreciate it sometimes.
Not like
for
not
sure.
to listen to, but go like, okay, I get that that's art. Like,
Yeah.
you're
Oh
not, like,
no, I'm not even saying it's not art. I'm not definitely not saying that. Like I just
I know, but
I-
sometimes people like
it doesn't connect with me, but then Bill Murray can put a twangy like country riff in a song and I'm like, holy shit, that speaks to my soul.
Well, and
I don't know what that is.
it's funny too how that happens because like I don't know if you've seen like the recent stuff that Johnny shared on Instagram, but like one of the next songs he's working on is with like, Tyler Hubbard, and everybody's like, hell yeah, let's go. But like that guy was in Florida Georgia Line, which is like the quintessential like point and laugh at country music, like
Mhm.
clean jacked up trucks, not just like everything that's wrong with like bro country. It's like you can point to
bro
that
country.
to that guy.
That's
a thing.
great.
Yeah.
I hadn't heard that.
Wow.
That makes sense. Bro country.
Yeah, Or even like something that doesn't connect with me that I wish that it did is like comics. I would love to be more into comics. I own plenty of comics that I need to read, but my ADHD reading brain can't handle all of it. Like I can look through it for the cool pictures. I cannot focus on it page to page,
Yeah.
and wish I could. I would appreciate it more. I've definitely went through stages where I've tried with like different kinds. Like I've tried in Marvel, I've tried in DC, I've tried in Star Wars, and it really just comes down to me and like not being able to stick to it the whole way through or focus on it the whole way through. Or I feel like I get stuck on a page or a panel
Yeah.
because of the art, and I like that. I think that's great, but I can't. It's hard for me to put the story together.
I love comics, but it's even hard for me sometimes. So like you really have to like you kind of have to like curate that yourself in a sense of like the way somebody writes, the artwork that's involved. Because there's some that like when I think of just art that I don't like, there are certain like comic series where it's just the type of illustration they use just it almost seems like too muddy sometimes. With
There's
like
a lot of
I'll
older
have to
Star
pull
Wars
it up
stuff
in
like that.
post, but like the one that just comes to mind is like back in like 2010, 11, 12, somewhere around that time that DC Comics kind of like did a refresh of everything with like their new 52.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the series was like Animal Man.
Yeah, I remember Animal Man.
I don't like the art in that for some
Yeah.
reason, just because it's too cluttered.
Mm.
It's like it's almost messy for the sake of being messy,
Yeah.
and that works for some people because like there are some things, there are some illustrations of like Sandman that I could compare to it directly, and it's like, well, it works for this, but it doesn't for this. I don't know why, and it's probably something that would be more along the lines of like something that would fit in like Bloodborne too.
Mm-hmm.
But for whatever reason, like as a comic, that just doesn't work for me.
No, I get that. I think generally, I think we all feel the same way. Like, I can appreciate a lot of art, even though I really don't favor it. Like, I think of like you said, Zack Snyder is a good example. But by that same token, comic book wise, Frank Miller. Like, I've read a lot of his comic books, like Dark Knight Returns, 300, and some of his other stuff, and really don't favor the art. Like
Yeah.
just doesn't look very good to me. But at the same time, I'm like that I can appreciate the uniqueness. I can appreciate that it's a style of it, and I feel that the same way. I think we all feel that way towards art in general. But like as far as connecting with it, I just don't feel it for like that. Like you mentioned music, I really have a hard time connecting with jazz. Like I appreciate it. It's I'm not saying it sounds bad, but like I don't feel what I think people who connect with it feel. Like I'm more of a cello. Like give me like
Yeah.
some like John Williamsy type music, or even something like that. Taking Back Sunday. Like I literally feel that music. But
Like, how can you not?
but like people talk about jazz a lot. Like and like I get it's an art form. I'm not saying it shouldn't be recognized for how acclaimed it is. You keep smiling like you're thinking
Well,
something.
I'm just thinking like he brought up country, you brought up jazz, and like I think musically, like the one thing I have the hardest time like identifying with is like EDM
Mm-hmm.
and
What remind me
just
of
like
EDM?
Electronic dance music.
But like
Oh my God. Sorry.
when we came back on the stream, we were talking about Bill Murray, and it's a band that's used all three of these and made it work.
Uh-huh.
Maybe that's why.
Dude, that is the medium,
Dude,
bro.
that
That makes so many different things that have never worked for me work for me. Like someone can do it in a way that works for me for sure.
Yeah.
But as far as going to like traditional country, traditional jazz,
Yeah.
EDM, uh, any of those like blues, I struggle with as well.
Mm-hmm.
Like, but there are people that can do
Yeah.
those things in kind of face it in my direction a little bit more, and it's like, oh, that works for me more so.
Now that's an awesome thing. I think you kind of captured with what you just said about art is like, yeah, you can. It doesn't matter the genre. Like you can if it's expressed the right way or in a way that just not the right way, but the way it connects with you. Like it can make it your favorite thing, even though
Yeah.
you have no love for that genre. Like One Punch Man, I think of that. Like there are people who don't, it's like straight up are like, I don't like animation, period. And you're like, first of all, like, are you insane? But they're like, and then they're like, I hate anime. Like, don't ever show me anime. But man, One Punch Man, they're like,
That'll win anybody.
oh, they're like, it's one of the funniest things ever, you
Yeah.
know, and like that's because they combine those pieces so well. Like they just pull it off, man. It's-
George Lucas did it with Star Wars, taking all those ideas from Frank Herbert.
yeah,
It was like, yeah, Dune was pretty boring, but the sand and the
one sand planet would be fine if
Yeah.
you go to these other ones, right? It's like we'll start.
Don't worry,
there.
we're gonna come back.
Dude, that's so funny you say that because I love the Dune movies, but I'm like, there was this part of me that's watching through the second one, and I'm like, sand plant the whole time.
Everything.
You know, like I'm getting like budget wise
Yeah.
why it would make sense, but I'm like, as a book,
Yeah.
to put it in a desert. Like I don't know how many video games y'all played, but every time we go to the desert, I'm like, well, I'm glad the whole game doesn't take place. Like, you know what I mean? It's
Yes.
like it's a bunch of sand,
Yeah.
dude.
I
Like,
mean, and I don't mean to throw any shade at it, but it's like everything's brown,
dude,
Mm-hmm.
and it's like all it takes is like a blue lightsaber,
yeah,
to, like,
mix it up a
just
little.
just for that contrast, and like that's all it takes.
Dude, I feel that way too.
Dude, that's
some
what
color.
Bill Murray did. Is he took country music and he gave it a blue lightsaber.
Hey,
That's exactly what he fucking did.
Those are lyrics. to a song, right?
Dude, I don't know what it is, but like we were kind of talking about it before we went back live, and it's just like for the past 6 months to a year, like Bill Murray's just been
I gotta check
Com-
out Bill Murray.
comfort.
I'll mention this. Like,
it's been my comfort music. Like I get in the car, that's the only thing I want to hear, and I think it's because just like on a personal level, like I don't know him, but I just feel like I think he's from like Cleveland, Ohio, in that area, so it's like we're in Cleveland, you know, below the Mason-Dixon line, and so it's just like I don't know. There's like a parallel. Like we're around the same age. I feel like we
grew
not
up
not
in
to
the
be
same
like
era.
too not to be too parasocial, but it's like I feel like we went through a lot of the same things, like culture wise, where it's like I was like country music was kind of forced on me, like it didn't really have a choice to listen to it. So like there's some of it I like, but like I don't really go out of my way to listen to it all that much. And to bring stuff like that in, even and then to like meme culture where like the start of like one of the breakdowns for one of his songs is literally the sound of the Nintendo Switch.
Oh, really?
Or at the end of the song, there's like
Okay.
just a Taco Bell dong at the end of the song. And it's just like
That's kind of cool.
everything, every bit about like their music is just like curated for like all the different like
That time,
Like-
like that era of growing up and stuff. And
well, just like even stuff now, but it's just like I'm the type of person where it's like I can't really go like too far in one direction on anything because I'm interested in so many different things, and it's just like the music they make is a way to like kind of bring that in and just put it all together.
yeah.
Kanan said Bill Murray gets it.
Yeah,
In
I'm,
fact,
I'm
they
really
do.
interested now, and I've not heard anything from Bill Murray.
Like
You're,
even-
y'all the only reason I've heard of Bill.
like even the way like they just take metalcore and add a
Pop.
saxophone to it, and it's like, man, this feels like
Saxophone.
I'm a kid in the
Oh, that's
'90s again.
cool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They
Wow.
yeah, adding like the saxophone definitely to the metal music / pop / country at times /
It sounds like they're like a Where's Waldo painting of music or something like that.
pretty
Like,
much.
that's what I'm visualizing.
I mean, it could be stuff that could easily be radio rock if it was on that, but it's more. I don't know. It's just manufactured more wholesomely. I feel
Mhm.
like.
And it's just like it's like this dichotomy too of like lyrically some stuff just cut straight to the bone, but then the music video for it's just him standing on a railroad track with like a American flag T-shirt
Being
holding a
stupid.
monster. Like
Being
it's
stupid.
just
Or riding a lawnmower, riding like a shitty old riding lawnmower
Mhm.
around in his yard and just like mean.
it's
by
like
the
if
camera.
Adult Swim just made like metal music.
Right.
It's
And it's metal.
It can be. It's not overly metal. Like it.
What song would y'all suggest, or songs would you suggest starting with? And I think y'all know enough about like what I like.
Probably something on Eggy Pocket.
Yeah, that.
yeah, probably
Eggy Pocket. Eggy Pocket sounds
About a cashew.
dirty.
No, I would probably go with like
Better
the
Hell.
fluoride
Oh yeah, fluoride.
Alka-Seltzer water.
Kanan says Better Hell. That is a good one.
That's the most. That's probably one of the most country ones.
That's where he really dipped into the country stuff.
And then what's the other one y'all just said? Better Hell. She said Better Hell. You said
There's a lot of the songs. It's like I can't tell you the names of. Like I know the song, but
Something-
it's like
something about-
4 words,
look
like
up just
all caps.
Bill
like,
Murray
put together.
fluoride.
Okay.
Is the I know it's the first word in it. That one's a good one.
Or
Fluoride.
like anything from their past 2 or 3. Like now, each album also too has like a different vibe to it.
Mm-hmm.
So like there's one that's like more like puro wave where it's like it's got like a mix of like
Empty-handed.
it's got like a mix of like 80s kind of like even down to like the music video of like just if you're like on that like in an acid trip in the 80s and you see like the VCR lines like come across the screen. It's just like a whole feeling. I don't know how to describe it really.
Blindsided.
okay.
That one, I think that one's probably my favorite, just because I think if you were gonna
I
give
really
someone
hope
a
I like
taste
this
of Bill
band,
Murray,
man. Because y'all are really hyping it up.
I'm gonna find at least 2 for you to play here after the
Yeah,
podcast.
well, yeah, no, we should. Yeah, once.
Because you have to have the visuals too.
yeah, I agree.
I,
Context is good.
you sure I'll like the visuals? It's just not better for me to hear the
It's
songs
silly.
first.
No, I take the visuals too. You need the whole package.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Because sometimes it's
It's
like
better that way for sure.
it's like
Because there's some of these songs, like honestly, like if I'm just being like totally transparent, there's probably some of this where it's like if you hear the country aspects of it added without knowing the whole thing, it's like, man, this is kind of cringy.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, knowing that it. Yeah.
But it's doing it to be ironic. Kind of.
Sometimes.
sounds like.
That you never know. Like that's part of it. It's like
They don't take themselves too seriously.
No.
Oh,
They-
like literally, Kanan said that as I was.
Yeah.
Yeah, I can't take it too seriously.
You can't. You definitely can't take it too seriously. There's like a vibe to it that's like, this is supposed to be silly, but it's got a great hook. It's got just great music composition to it. The lyrics are probably where it can fall a little short sometimes because it can be kind of basic at
Mhm.
times, but not in a bad way. 'Cause, I mean, sometimes simplicity is everything. So
But
I
sometimes
think
are
it
they
takes that.
really great?
Yeah, for sure.
Like poetic, like metaphors and stuff. Are they all very direct? I mean, it doesn't matter. I can appreciate.
there are some that are like that.
Okay.
I could say.
I'm gonna check them out. Yeah, we'll listen to some once we wrap up. Oh, hey, the older stuff.
Yeah.
I think. Okay. Well, that's cool. There's eras of artists and stuff. So I feel about Fall Out Boy. Fall Out Boy.
From
Fall Out
Under the
Boy.
Cork Tree,
Dude,
man. It doesn't get better than
and
that.
Take This to Your Grave.
Yeah.
I think From Under Your Cork Tree was the perfect, like, it's getting more polished,
Mhm.
right? Like, really well produced without going into the full Big Hero 6
Yeah.
soundtrack where it was just like, light 'em up, I'm on fire. Like,
Yeah.
what the oh, that,
Them and
that
Panic
pisses
went
me
the
off,
same
dude.
direction.
Yeah, I was gonna say that first like Panic album is also on the same
Oh, yeah.
same line as
Dude,
From Under the
Panic
Cork
at the
Tree.
Disco. I can't believe I didn't mention them when we were talking about music. Maybe we did, but their lyrics, like, was like, oh, okay, this is the standard.
Didn't it not help you? Did it not make you think that you were like, I could be a literature nerd after like listening to whatever that first
All
album
their
is?
songs, yeah, man.
Just like every
the-
song was like a book of words.
it was.
so.
Even the title.
They would
Probably-
do entire songs where nothing repeated in some of them. It was
Yeah.
just an entire. There's one oh dude, I could probably quote Panic lyrics all
Same.
day.
I could.
Boy, you better put pen to paper, charm your way out with more than good
Yeah.
looks.
Mhm.
What is it? Yeah, it's there's a ton. The Camisado. We were listening to that song the other day. It's like, this is the center with skin on the linoleum floor. This is the center for Ten Wing in a hospital. What is
Yeah.
it? It's like, dude, those made me go like, okay,
Yeah.
this is what good lyrics are like, because they were so complicated and they were saying so much so fast and stuff. Yeah, that's I'm
and
glad.
carrying a good catchy tune with
Oh,
it
dude,
too
having
at the same
drum
time.
machines made
Yeah.
techno cool, made pop kind of
Yeah.
cool to me. But I see. Okay, so going back to talking about. I don't have too much time, but like talking about art, that breaks my heart too. Like, I'm not saying Fall Out Boy is necessarily bad, but it goes right back into that. Like, let's write our song with a hook so that we can get paid $30 million by X animated movie and they can play it during the trailer.
Went from being like a band that's easy to connect to because everyone in it has a heart for it to this is a business machine.
Dude, yeah, that sucks.
Which I mean, I like some of the newer Fall Out Boy stuff too, so I can't really. Like,
sure,
I-
well, you say
but I-
newer, you're probably talking about 15-year-old song when you say newer.
I mean, I like some of the Big Hero 6 stuff. I liked the album after that. Some of the stuff on the
I
album
only know
after
that
that
one
too.
song that they played in the trailer.
Immortals.
I don't know. Yeah.
It was.
Or then you have Patrick go and do the theme song for Spidey and His Amazing Friends.
And
I did.
Yeah.
yes, yeah. Patrick Stump went on to make not only the theme song, like a lot of songs for it. Wrote
Yeah.
at least even ones that he doesn't sing. He even had a part in writing.
It's not that I don't like listen, there's some big things that are like super produced that I love, like Avatar movies, right? Like those are the most big budget, like traditional story, like super CGI. I think that's great. It's when it starts off like a band, for example, starts off like really down to earth, not perfect, right? And but it's like that's what like gets you is like, oh, they do these lyrics really well. And then that it changes into a totally different style of movie, and not just that their art has changed, but like the production of what goes into the art goes from these real world experiences like Sugar We're Going Down. Like I remember people had theories about what that song meant, and it was about possibly school shootings and stuff, and the lyrics were edgy and all this different stuff. And then you look at what they're singing about now, or even the past 10-15 years, and it's like it's not trying in my perspective trying to be that, like, you know, I don't know, maybe
But
that's
then you
just
have
me.
stuff like Pumped Up Kicks where it's just like everybody's like singing as this happy upbeat thing. It's literally about school shooting.
Yeah, that's a great song too. Hey, I know we got like probably like 10 minutes until we need to wrap. I had one. You guys mind if we jump to like a wrap up question?
Yeah.
So just what's one piece of art, whether it's an album, a movie, a comic book, a game, that you would say like someone just like, hey, give me an example of what's just a great piece of art that I should experience that just sums up all the things you value or love. What would that maybe be for y'all? It could be a couple things. I'll tell you what I wrote down while y'all think about it. Alan Wake 2, okay, is one that I would strongly suggest. And you've seen me take pictures in that game. It looks like a painting when you take the pictures, which
Yeah.
is insane. But they wrote original songs for it. It's all about a writer, and so I connect with that. And like there's straight up moments where like you pick up documents and it's just like Alan Wake writing this chapter that affects reality and stuff. And then then it's got all the things I love, like visually it's amazing, right? The sound design's amazing. There's songs, like I said, with lyrics that sound like original pop songs that are talking about the events of the game that you just experienced in the chapter. So I think it combines all these different types of art, and then it doesn't do it safely. Like it's like, okay, this cutscene was 30 minutes long, like kind of in the way Metal Gear Solid is, and you're like, that's not like always a good decision, but I loved it, you know. And then a couple other things I'll throw out there. Sandman comics and the TV show are just like pure creativity to me, like imagination. The Annihilation book, which I've talked about before, will like break your brain if you can get past the boring parts of it or get through the boring parts of it, especially the audiobook. It'll just
Yeah.
literally rewire parts of your brain. And then last thing that I'll say is Love, Death, and Robots. We talked about that a little bit earlier, but if you just want to see like a stream of different creativity and vision, mainly visually, check that out. But yeah, I'll stop there.
I'm gonna say
Homer.
no. Well, I mean,
Yes,
when it
maybe.
comes to like albums and artwork and sound and visuals and all that, Avenged Sevenfold is like probably like just resonates with my soul, both artistically with a lot of their album art, musically with almost all of their albums. where I've been at the different points in my life when those albums came out, and how I feel whenever I fall back into the albums from like my childhood, early 2000s. And yesterday, doing research, I learned the name of the person that created the Death Bat. It's Micah Montague, which thank that guy, because like I don't know, it's just the most recognizable symbol to me for a band, and also just for like an era for me.
Yeah.
It's a death bat.
The Death Bat. It's the
It's
skull
like a
with
skull
bat
with
wings.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, skull with
Metal
bat-
Militia used that like quite a bit too with like the motocross like team. I used to have a shirt that had like it, I mean it's like cringy now to think about because it's like on the same level as like buff dudes like wearing Affliction and crap like that. But yeah,
Yeah, I don't know, especially like the artwork from City of Evil. Like, I don't know who did all that art, but that art, that album, and just what it means to me, I don't know. That's probably one of my favorites, just favorite things of all time. For context, the Death Bat is that.
Okay. Yeah, I feel like
Yeah,
it's a staple, right?
just a not.
You've seen it everywhere.
Yeah, it's one of those things you've seen it everywhere.
Yeah.
It was on the back of my first car. I had
But
a
I
huge
get
Death
it,
Bat
though.
sticker on the
It's-
back of it.
It's
It's just-
iconic and
yeah, it's
kind
just
of simple.
something simple that kind of sums up all
Yeah.
of their
Yeah.
what they mean to me as far as
That's
like
cool.
art.
like I probably got two or three things, but like I know we've already kind of mentioned it a little bit, but just the overall like world and music of Harry Potter.
Mhm.
Like
Yeah.
if there was like anything, like if there was any of these fictional places or fictional properties where I'd like choose to live, it'd probably be that.
Yeah,
Yeah. Yeah.
It's like I'm always like torn between that or like Pokemon.
Oh,
Just because like I want to
Pokemon. I live there. Dude.
Did you see the video of like someone doing the like Ken art for a Pokemon game?
yeah, it's like
And
yeah.
it was like 3D
it was
and
great.
walking around. Dude, where is that?
What? Wait,
Yeah.
tell me about this. I want to look this up. Ken art?
I'll show you.
It's
but
the watercolor Pokemon art that we were talking about.
Okay.
From
Show
like
it to me.
Ken Sugimori.
Okay.
He had, or someone made like a mod of a game or something, but it was like redoing Pokemon Red and Blue in that art. So it's those like watercolor drawn characters, your characters walking around, and it still like 3D, or still like similar view, but yeah, just like a
Okay.
3D world
that's
walking
it.
around
Yeah, show me
red and
that.
blue and that kind of art style would just be like, that would be incredible.
yeah,
It'd be so good.
like between Harry Potter and like the next one, like I really hate bringing it up because I don't want to be like a broken record because I haven't been a fan for the longest time. Like it's literally been less than a year, but like Final Fantasy VII, like I can't get it out of my head.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Like from the music down to like
Now it's
character design and everything.
the story, the characters, the music, the graphic. Yeah, it's all there.
Like if it hasn't been like Bill Murray in my car or something, various like times like throughout the day I'm like humming like one of the Final Fantasy like score songs.
Yeah. The overworld theme, ever since I heard it when I played the game when I was like probably 14, I hum it probably like at least 3 times a week. Just the
I probably had Cosmo
Paris.
Canyon stuck in my head the past 2 or 3 weeks.
see, I don't. That's one that I didn't remember. I mean, I know it had like a twangy,
Yeah.
deserty type of.
The Chocobo fucking club mix or whatever it was whenever you first meet your Chocobo. It's
I think
got
of I think of the
it's just
Bow
a
Wow
fucking
song.
bop. It's-
I played it when I was playing it again the other day. I was like, yeah, this is the one he's talking about.
Dude, I love it.
That Bow Wow song though, I think is me and Milo. Is a
Yeah.
masterpiece. Bow Wow, Bow Wow. Milo just starts singing that sometimes, and it cracks me up so bad. I'm like, this is pure evil. This song, but it gets stuck in your head, and it's like,
And I don't know why like I drew this comparison, but you say Avenged Sevenfold, and I just think like Vincent Valentine is
Mm,
like fits
Oh,
yeah,
that aesthetic.
oh, where's
Yeah.
that crossover?
for sure.
And see, that's
Yeah,
where
Beast and the Harlot over some like
well, that's what I'm saying.
mashup with him. Oh
Like
my
that's where
God.
like that creative part of me comes out, where it's like I want to take like scenes from Dirge of Cerberus and then put some
Dude, do it.
of Avenged
That'd be
Sevenfold
awesome.
on.
100%, dude.
Like that was I don't have any that I specifically can like name off the top of my head, but that's like one of my favorite things is like pretty much taking like any anime that's like music video with like metal over it or something. It's
AMVs,
just
bro.
yeah, it's the best.
Dude, I have this one edit I want to do eventually. It's gonna sound so weird, but I've been imagining it since I was like 12
Yeah.
or whatever. Whenever Kingdom Hearts came out, I want to do an edit of the Punisher story from the comics with the orchestrated version of Simple and Clean. And I could break it down to you, but I've imagined it frame for frame, like a 3.5 minute cut of going through the Punisher story with that music playing, and like I've imagined every frame of it.
We need to work on that together. I think
Dude.
that's something we could do.
That
Yeah.
sounds cool.
Like literally, I'll give you like just a
When
little
worlds
taste.
collide.
Oh, dude, but it's like the starting of the Simple and Clean song and orchestrated version is like Punisher at his wedding, and there's
Yeah.
like all this stuff, and then as the music changes, going into like the breaking into his house, then he's getting revenge and redemption and all this throughout the whole song. I don't know what made me think of it, but like I've like literally laid in bed at night just saying this is what every shot. I don't know if every shot exists though. That's part of the problem is like literally going to the beat of certain parts of the music where he's like firing a gun or something like that. But anyway, I feel like if
Yeah.
I could make it, it would be freaking awesome.
Stuff like that's like very intriguing to me. Like even the other day, I saw somebody did an edit of like the scene of like Darth Vader, like showing up, like red lightsaber lighting up in the dark,
Oh, Rogue One.
and they put it to like Master of Puppets, not Master of Puppets. It might have been Master of Puppets by Metallica, but it's like it's one of those like I wouldn't have wanted it in the movie, but like on its own, it's pretty badass.
Yeah. Last thought that I want to share personally is I think, and I thought of this from before the episode when we were thinking about artists, is I think we are all married to very creative people. Like I think shameless plug here, but Take Root, super creative. Like I'm a fan of my wife's art. I'm a fan of the stuff that they make together. I think they're super talented. Like I'm really grateful. Like my boys personally, they got their ability to illustrate and draw from Brandy, and to me they're incredible artists. Like I'm in awe of what they do and stuff. So yeah, like I'm super grateful. Like just looking around, like we've got art that's not original, but we've got stuff that Brandy's painted and stuff, and like I love that. I love seeing all this stuff, and like the stuff Brandy's drawn me for birthdays and stuff, and the pictures the kids have drawn me. Like I think we're married to just really talented, artistic people.
100%.
Yeah, I'd say over the past year or so, like that. I mean, honestly, that's where like a lot of my inspirations come from. Just in the sense of like growing up, I didn't ever really have any role models like that I knew like in my personal life where like they were ambitious for in whatever field and like actually like going for it.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And so like trying to help provide like that opportunity for my wife and like seeing her being able to go out and do this stuff, it inspires me to do more.
Yeah.
So
I'm right there with you on that. Like, it's been, I don't know, really cool to see all of them like chasing their dream with the business and like all kind of providing a very different take to create this, like to create their baby, you know, and just is really, really awesome to see. And I'm like, I don't know, very proud of my wife too, and like, and y'all's like just for their commitment to it, sticking through it.
Yeah. I think for me too, it's like there was a time where I was really hung up about making my artistic dreams come true. And then I've had several opportunities to really jump into that and realize like I don't have to do much to get that out of my system. I realize like I don't need to be doing it all the time.
Mhm.
Right? So it's like, okay, but I still want a big part of my life and my efforts and resources and all that to go towards it. So for me, it's like super fulfilling watching them do it because they do want to do it full time, right? They
Mhm.
do want to make this stuff and they're always making something together. And I even think that extends to like the yoga and stuff. I think that's an art form and stuff. So for me, I'm like, I don't have to do it full time, right? But I get to like be a part of it and invest in it and get to reap the benefits more or less. So I can kind of live that part of the dream through her, right? Like I don't feel like I have to be successful with that type of creativity. So anyway, it's just big shout out to them um and I'm just really grateful for that. Is what it comes down to. And I'm grateful that our kids have it too because I love that I grew up in a creative household. Like that still is what shapes my thoughts and stuff. So
Yeah.
yeah,
Awesome.
cool.
Put a cap on that.
Yeah, I think that was a good
That's-
spot to wrap.
that's
But
good.
now, guys, I've loved this conversation, and we'll never finish this conversation.
No,
Like that's what
for
I
sure.
love too. Like
Yeah, I have like
yeah,
plenty of
we
things
we
that I
could
didn't even
have
touch on, and I'm
yeah.
like,
Let's
what's
have like
the
a part
good?
2 to this or something
Yeah.
eventually, right? Like, because I also want to know like, yeah, just more about your favorite songs, why they're your favorite songs, why they're your favorite movies, and like I don't feel like we'll ever finish having that conversation.
Yeah, we should work out like a show and tell kind of thing.
Yes.
Like that would be sick.
Like complete like awkwardness for like doing it in classroom too.
Like, what would
That was
we-
always like
What would we show and tell?
Like music, art,
Like our own?
Yeah, no, not necessarily our own, but like, what songs do you like, Nick? Show me a song that you like.
Show you? Or like play it? Where we
Play
hear
it, yeah, like YouTube.
That was fun.
I want you to
Yeah, I feel
play
like
it.
you're
Get
gonna
the
hit me.
instruments
Yeah.
out. Get the instruments
I feel like
out
you
and
wanna hit
play it
me.
yourself.
Okay.
And don't fuck up.
I can hum it or whistle it.
That's not.
No,
gonna-
I think that's
is that the first impression you want me to have
of what?
of the song that you like? You just want to hum it and think I'll get the gist from that.
Oh, I might.
That's brave.
I'm not gonna do
You're
it.
probably a good hummer then.
I'm a pretty good whistler.
Okay.
You knew that.
what we really need to do is like combine these interests and like
Make something.
show us whatever song you like and you got to play it on an ocarina or something.
Yeah.
Do you think I can play the ocarina?
No, but you can whistle. It sounds basically the same.
Yeah.
You
I
can
don't
learn.
think- I don't think I ever want to look someone in the eyes while whistling. You know what I mean? Like think about that.
Did you think about that when you were looking at me? Like,
Yeah, well,
can
that's
I
the
break
point.
into song right now?
Yeah, like could I just do it and be like, yeah, this is the song. This is what it would sound like. Can you imagine just whistling while looking at you know? I'm sorry, I go off a rant on that. People who do shit like that makes I'm like, are you trying to kill me with cringe right
That is-
now? Like,
yeah, that's
Yeah.
insanity.
people who look at you while they're singing, like,
Mm-mm.
just murder me.
No.
That, I know that's like not normal, but that drives me crazy. But anyway,
Awesome.
cool guys. Well, thanks y'all for hanging with us. Hope y'all enjoyed this. Definitely like, subscribe, comment, give us your social security number, whatever they're doing these
Mhm.
days.
Mhm.
Yeah,
You know,
just leave it in the comments below.
yeah. Send us a DM. All right, y'all. Take care.